This is Colin Baker speaking, the Sixth Doctor, but you are the lucky ones because you are travelling the Vortex.
Traveling the Vortex.
Have you ever seen a penguin come to tea? When you look at me, a penguin you will see. Penguins, attention! Penguins, begin! Right, Flipper, have you ever seen a penguin come to tea?
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed episode number 203. And all hail Frobisher. All hail the big talking bird.
All hail Frobisher. All hail the big talking bird.
How are you guys?
All hail.
I was going to say,
Hailing
I'm
Frobisher?
apparently hailing Frobisher.
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. Oh no, I dropped a piece of popcorn.
Well, then you're not so good.
I'm still going to eat it.
Just make sure you take that hair off of it.
I got it.
Oh,
5-second roll.
Yeah. Did you guys have a good week?
Unless it's ice cream, then it's pretty much a goner.
Yeah.
Or at work.
yeah. I spent my week catching up on all of the shows that I fell behind on. So, didn't really fall behind on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I caught up on Gotham.
Well, there wasn't one for the fall.
Right.
Behind on.
And then I caught up on Arrow. And I think I in all of that watching, I forgot to watch The Flash last week. So
Last week or this week?
Well, this week's, yeah.
This week's.
This week is new week. So.
Last week it wasn't.
I thought you'd done a really good job of staying caught up.
It was pretty good until
last week.
And now I'm caught back up because
Aside from the Flash.
right. And then God, not much going on. We put up our tree in our family room, so the Christmas tree's up down there. Probably pick next weekend for the next tree upstairs. And then we went over to my parents today, and my sister and her son had gotten my mom's decorations down, so we went ahead and put their tree up tonight. So that's it. That's all I did. Didn't watch anything, don't think. Nope. I mean, movie-wise. Nope.
I didn't do that much either. Stayed caught up on shows. Actually, I'm behind on Constantine.
Oh, that's the other one I haven't watched.
By an episode. I'm now 2 behind. I never watched last week's, and I didn't watch this week's.
I watched the previous week, but I didn't watch this week.
Didn't you watch? Didn't you guys do it tonight for shows?
Yeah, but that was episode 2, and I've already seen it.
Oh, because you're usually one ahead of them.
Well, yeah.
2 now, right?
2 now. I'm thinking of just waiting and just watching with the group now instead.
Might as well.
Although, I'm tempted to go ahead and watch it anyways, just in case it gets a little too scary for Sarah. I can give her a
Not
warning.
a bad idea. It's not. It hasn't become groundbreaking yet. So
No,
I mean, it's had
been
some
okay.
good episodes, but it's not.
It kind of had to repilot
Yeah,
a little bit.
it did. Which is fine.
Yeah. Didn't do much else. Watched A Long Way Down.
What's the long way down?
A Long Way Down
What's
is
a long way down?
a movie based off the novel written by Nick Hornsby. Hornby? Something like that.
In the range? Oh, that's Bruce.
Same author of About a Boy and High Fidelity.
Wow.
And it's about these 4 people who go up to the top of London's tallest building on New Year's Eve to jump off. And they wind up stopping each other from jumping off and form
Like
this
all
unlikely...
4 independently of
yeah,
each
all
other. They just happen to show up.
Yeah.
That's got to be awkward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a group thing. I
It
mean,
wasn't
that
a
would be
group
kinda
thing.
freaky.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd stop each other. If it was a group way.
So, yeah, they didn't know each other, and so they went up there and ended
Side note, remind me off mic to tell you guys about our New Year's plans. Go ahead.
Okay. And so they
kidding.
they don't jump.
We're jumping off the Jayhawk Tower.
I think I'd want a taller building.
There's not much down there taller than that.
Yeah.
The Bank of America building.
Bank of
maybe.
America, I think, is taller. Maybe West Star. I don't know how tall
Well,
that is.
the Capitol Dome, but you don't think you could hit the ground from there.
You'd
You'd hit the building first.
slide, which would be fun for a little bit.
For a little while. Not that wouldn't kill you.
Until you
but-
got off the dome. Well, they form an unlikely friendship and stay alive.
You remember that guy in The Flash, and then in The Flash in the Shadow, that Shiwan Khan convinces to jump off the Empire State Building, and he tumbles and goes, ah, and bounces off the side of the building. We're amused by morbid things.
It's a really charming movie. Not The Shadow, A Long Way Down.
Well, that Shadow could be
Shadow's
It's a
very
little
charming.
charming, yeah.
It's an awesome movie.
It's awesome. I don't know if I call it charming.
Okay, I'll give you that.
It stars Pierce Brosnan.
That's why I know
Shadow
that. That's
does
on my
not
new-
star Pierce.
No, A Long Way Down.
Oh, A Long Way Down.
Aaron Paul. I think that's it. Paul Aaron? Aaron Paul. The guy from Breaking Bad.
Sure. I think it's Aaron Paul. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Aaron Paul,
Tony
yeah.
Collette. Sam Neill.
Ooh.
And Imogen Poots.
Well, that's more than 4 people.
Well, he plays Imogen Poots' dad.
Oh.
Is Sam Neill the bad guy?
He's a politician.
Oh, he's so good as the
Yes,
bad
he's a
guy.
bad guy.
There really isn't a bad guy in it. It's
The bad guy is death, Sean. Aren't you paying attention?
No,
They narrowly avoided it.
kind of sounds like
it's-
Gravity really ought to be the bad guy. Death is kind of an unexpected consequence of meeting the bad guy. But
Being a fan of the book, obviously it wasn't as good, but it was really enjoyable. They took a lot of shortcuts. Spoilers.
What? In a book?
No, in the movie.
I mean, from a book?
Yeah.
They took shortcuts? Get out of here.
did they take liberties?
They didn't. Not that I remember. Not too much liberties.
Not too much liberties.
Just huge chunks gone. Like, okay, so if the book,
Sounds like liberty to me. It's my liberty to cut this chunk of the book.
the book essentially follows them for a full year, and you see their relationships grow and develop and become great friendships. This just follows them to Valentine's Day,
Sounds
and
like
then
a good chunk of the book.
and then picks it back up at the end.
There are
So it's
365
kinda-
days in a year still, right?
Yeah.
Last time I checked.
So it was
Sometimes
that-
366.
It was when we got to Valentine's Day, which was a very nice and very kind of climax of the movie. It was well done, and it was, oh, that's it? They're not going to go any further? But there's some great stuff that follows.
They all
And
shot each other with arrows,
that would have been cool.
trying to find love.
Yeah.
Hey, look, we skirted death. Now let's find love.
Speaking of, remind me off mic to tell you guys about our Valentine's Day plans.
But for being a morbid topic, the reasonings that each of them have for wanting to jump off the building is rather interesting, and you kind of unpeel some layers to the characters in that aspect.
Cool.
And then today,
Ogres have layers.
ogres do have layers. So does Pierce Brosnan, but he's not an ogre.
I'm really excited about his new one, November Man. That's coming
Yeah.
up. I mean, it's already hit theaters and gone, but it's
Coming
coming
out
out
on DVD soon.
Coming out on DVD soon.
He has another one coming out in theaters soon too. I can't remember what though.
I told you guys I watched that other one that he did, didn't I? The Love Punch. Is that the name of it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You told me about it. Pretty sure you talked about it on mic.
I probably did.
I don't remember.
Glenn wasn't listening.
No.
What was the other thing you did?
Audie came over today, and we played some video games, and he wanted to watch Doctor Who.
Really?
He didn't really pay that close attention,
Aw.
but he liked he. We
What
ended
did you subject him to? Something with Cybermen?
no, he liked
Something with-
Sontarans,
Something with Matt Smith?
and so I thought, well, yeah, something with Matt Smith. So I thought, okay, well,
Well, there's your
Strax
problem.
is kind of funny, so maybe he'd like Strax. So I thought, Snowman might be a little too scary for him. Let's go. Good Man Goes to War. He kind of paid attention, not really, and then he was like, let's watch more with these guys and more of them. So I popped into Sontaran 2-parter, and I forgot how much they aren't really in that first part. So I had to kind of fast forward it to be like, but we played with the toys on the floor, the minifigs and stuff. It was fun. Yeah. I also showed him one of the episodes of Rebels he hadn't seen. So the one with R2-D2 and 3PO.
That'd be one I haven't seen.
Have you seen any of them?
No.
And we're almost done with How I Met Your Mother. We're 3 episodes away from the end.
Let me know what Sarah thinks of the ending.
We already-
Let me know what you think of the ending.
I already know what the ending is, but going up to it, it's kind of going to be interesting. I plan on going online directly afterwards and finding the alternate ending, which I'm sure I will agree with more.
Cheating. Not you,
The actual
production
ending.
company is cheating.
Yeah. A lot of it would make sense if they hadn't done other stuff in the show. From where they started it,
The ending would have been better if they hadn't had to do Series 9, Season 9.
yeah, I can see that.
But, that being said,
Well, and some
Season
other stuff.
9 was phenomenal,
It was really well done,
crafted.
yeah.
Well crafted.
The one we just watched, there was a nice line of, wow, this has been one heck of a day.
Almost all of the ninth season is done in
flashbacks.
one weekend.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how they shoehorn it all into.
Aside from flashbacks and spoilers, just a little bit. The last episode's not done.
On flash forwards.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty clever way they did it.
Interesting.
There's another thing that they had done earlier that I don't agree with, that if they wouldn't have done it, would have made the ending a little better, involving a character. What'd you do, Sean?
What did I do this week?
School and work.
We did the school and work thing. Yeah, we watched. Oh God, I just lost it. I didn't make a note. I should have made a note. It was right there. It was right there. We rewatched Hunger Games, and you should really hit me because maybe
sometimes you have
back.
to hit the reset button on you. Did you turn it on and off again?
I had another 3 movies this week. We rewatched Hunger Games to prepare for the new one coming out. So we watched the first one. We'll probably watch the second one next week, and then go to the theater for that. And I forgot what a good movie that really is. It's just a really well crafted film. It's just a good one.
I think the second one's better, but that's me.
We watched Silver Linings Playbook.
Oh, what'd you think?
Oh man, is that a great movie?
Yeah, I really liked it.
I had not seen that one, and I didn't know anything about it. Silver Linings. Okay, it's about football, right? Okay, it's got Playbook in it somewhere. So
it's a sports movie, right?
It's a sports movie. Well, it is, but no, it's not a sports movie.
To some extent.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a sports movie, but it's not a sports movie.
A different kind of sport than you think.
Bradley Cooper continues to impress me. I mean, I like
He's
him.
good in that.
I like him. I've liked him in every role I've seen him in, but I'm so glad that he's not. He has not fallen into the kind of pretty boy actor trap that so many of them. That he's in something different. He's always different in everything he's in.
He hasn't fallen to the Hangover cliche.
Yeah, which is I was kind of worried about him. Of course, I haven't seen Hangover 2 or 3, but yeah, just amazingly good. I don't know if it's one that I would necessarily go back and rewatch because there are parts of it are actually kind of tough to
uncomfortable. Yeah. Jennifer Lawrence did a really good job in it too.
Yeah, she did.
I've been kind of mad on her as an actress. She's okay in Hunger Games and as Mystique. Silver Linings Playbook is what sold me on her as an actress.
Oh my God! You still haven't watched what was the one that's set in the 1970s?
American Hustle.
Yeah, you still
haven't watched
American
that
Hustle.
Don't put metal in the science oven. That's the best line ever.
It is.
Don't put metal in the science oven. And then oh bollocks. Well, it'll come back to me at some point. I watched another one. And then
right in the middle of our
Big Hero
Frobisher
6.
review.
Did you go see Big Hero 6?
Right.
No.
Didn't have time
How
to
about
see
Dawn
it.
of the Planet of the Apes?
No.
It's available.
I'm waiting for that to come
It's
out.
available digitally.
I saw that. I almost rented it the other day.
But he didn't. That's the important.
I almost
element.
rented it the other day too.
I figure I'm going to buy it, so I might as well hold off until it comes out on
in
Blu-ray.
3 weeks.
And I got very depressed over the loss of Glenn Larson.
Yeah, that was sad. He made up most of my 80s television.
I know. And Quincy, and Battlestar Galactica, and Magnum, and
Glenn A. Larson.
Glenn A. Larson. Oh, that was it. As soon as I think of this other movie.
Right in the middle of the Frobisher.
Right in the middle of Frobisher.
Or feedback.
Well, should we move on to news?
Sure.
Are you going to talk about what you did?
I did.
He did that first.
You did?
I was.
He didn't do anything.
See,
Oh, that's right.
Who
He didn't do
doesn't
anything.
listen? He's accusing me of not listening. to
He
him.
watched shows. He caught up.
That's right. He got up on
And I
shows.
decorated 2 Christmas trees.
And 2 Christmas trees.
One. I thought you only put up one. I thought
You
putting up
don't
the next
listen
one.
either.
I thought you were putting
You
up the
don't
next one this
listen
week.
either. What did I do today, Keith?
Oh, at your parents. Okay, that's right.
Thank you for remembering.
Since we brought it back up, can I
I
tell you
say
how
2 trees at my house.
That's what I thought. Well, wait. You said you were going to do the next one up next week.
since it's come back up, can we
That'll
talk
be
about
great.
how wrong you are for having your Christmas trees up and decorated already?
Nope.
Yes, because you're wrong.
Nope.
We did. Oh,
Christmas is such a magical time
No.
of the year.
we did.
I want it to last as long as possible.
We did go by the Hallmark store and look at their ornaments for this year.
Oh, are those out?
Yeah. Guess what they have?
You're not allowed to go look at them, Sean. It's not close enough to Christmas yet.
Well, you gotta make the exception with Hallmark because they'll sell out.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Cornelius. There's a Cornelius ornament.
Like original?
Original Planet of the
school
Apes.
Oh, Planet of the Apes. I thought you meant Yukon Cornelius from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh. No. I don't even know what you're talking about.
The guy with the pickaxe.
Does he have an egg?
Then he tastes the
Nothing.
end of it. Nothing.
Cornelius the Ape.
He's the one that goes off
First
off the
ever-
cliff with Bumbles, the snowman.
It's been too long since I've seen that, apparently.
Lord, I'm bringing that disc over next week.
I've seen it. It's just...
You need to see it again.
I
It's
don't
one
watch
of
the stop motions very often.
One of the best Rankin and Bass.
See, I don't think I've watched any of the Rankin and Bass since I was a kid.
How is that even possible?
So
I don't own
disappointed
them.
I
in
mean,
you.
I just...
He doesn't have kids either, but I was even watching them
But
again and again and again.
how
And
is
I don't
it-
have cable.
How is it that
They're
you haven't been
staples of
inundated
I'm
with
bringing my
these?
discs. I have these collections of them.
I got it for my
Whole
sister one
huge
year.
collections of them.
Remember, I'm usually pretty bah humbug about Christmas.
I'm leaving.
It's good.
I'm going. Good night.
It's not as good as the...
Nightmare Before Christmas.
no, that one sucks. What's the...
Muppet Christmas Carol.
oh, that's a good one. What's the one with the mouse and the clock?
Mouse.
I don't think I've seen
Was
that
that was the
one.
night before Christmas?
Yeah,
it's not a
with
Rankin
the
and Bass.
family, and then
Yeah.
he's the family. They've got the
I've
family.
read that
involved.
book.
That's the best Christmas
I've
special
read
ever.
That one's good.
Book
I like
many,
it.
many times.
I have that one as well.
That's the best Christmas special ever.
They made a movie of that one?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
It's a cartoon. It's not a stop animation.
How did you not? Oh my God!
I read the book.
What book?
The Night Before Christmas.
The poem.
It's not the poem.
It's not.
Well, it is. It is the poem.
Well,
but
sort of, but yes. It's yeah.
it's inspired by the poem.
my
but
God.
It's not really the
They
poem.
take it for... What else can you do?
Well, they have to expand it out to at least 22 minutes with commercials.
Without commercials. 22
Without
minutes.
commercial. Did you know if you don't own that one on DVD, it's actually only 14 minutes because they cut that whole song in the middle out to make room for more commercial breaks.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I haven't watched those on TV since I bought the
Yeah.
discs. So
I always tended to flip past them on TV because it was Christmas.
Even as bug humbuggy as I am about Christmas,
bug
working
humbuggy.
bug humbuggy.
You can't even get the phrase right.
It's bug humbuggy.
I like it.
It's a verb. Even as bug humbuggy as I am about this kind of stuff working retail, even I think we may have to hold an intervention and put the Clockwork headgear, Clockwork Orange headgear back on you and subject you to some Christmas stuff, and then maybe have a podcast or two about it because it's kind of important.
That'll be our Christmas special. We're going to subject Keith to Christmas shows for our Christmas special this year.
And give my review of them.
1,000 points. I think we should. I think that would be good.
Stay tuned, listeners.
Well, especially if the Christmas special of Who is going to involve the, how did you put it, the Americanized, commercialized Coca-Cola Santa Claus, there's probably going to be a lot of jokes you're not going to get. Yeah. You're going to have to just consider this research.
I consider this
Time to
Cornelius guy an obscure character in the
He's a bit obscure. He's the prospector guy. Come on, you've at least seen him. He's got the stocking cap on, the red stocking cap. He's got the full beard and mustache, and he's the big guy.
I didn't know he had a name.
Cornelius, we thought you were dead.
Yukon
No.
Cornelius.
Bumbles, bounce. Nothing.
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 Turns out.
All right, maybe after Thanksgiving I'll track all those down.
Oh, we own them on DVD.
Well,
We'll
bring
be
them over
happily-
after Thanksgiving and I'll
happily-
watch them.
After Thanksgiving.
Keep an eye on
After
Dropbox.
Thanksgiving. After Thanksgiving.
Keep an eye on
You can
Dropbox.
put them there. I won't download them until after Thanksgiving. There's a Star Wars Hallmark ornament that I'm tempted
I thought you
by.
was going to say there's a Star Wars holiday special. I haven't seen that either.
I've seen that one.
Okay. Let's bring that one too if we need to. Oh,
It's been a long time since
It's a bootleg because it's never been released commercially.
Oh God.
There's a really cool...
I like it. I like it. Nobody say any ill will against the Star
Chewbacca's
Wars
son
holidays.
is named Lumpy.
Yeah,
Really?
but it's really like that's a short name. It's like Lumpawathlewitz or something like that. I mean, it's some Kashyyyk
So he's
name.
Jewish.
I can't remember exactly what it is. Now, granted, it did take them a little bit longer in Star Wars EU to kind of name him to make it a little more conformed. But look it up, Gabe.
I'm not looking it up.
Yeah, why don't you
I'll look it up.
tell me who played Lumpy in the
IMDb will list it as Lumpy, I'm sure.
God.
No, they have a...
Of all of the crimes that have been
His
perpetrated
grandfather's
against
name was
humanity.
Itchy.
Did the people who write that only know his name was Chewie? Did they think his name was Chewie? They did not know it was Chewbacca?
I think they intended for them to be shortened names. They just didn't come up with a backstory for the longer version of it.
And that's
it's
the problem with
all right,
the
all
holiday
right, all right,
special.
Itchy,
all right,
Chewy, and Lumpy.
Because next week I'm sure we'll have some Star Wars geek that will email us and say this is what it was.
It'll be
I'm
Glenn.
going to start right now. It's Lumpawaru is his real name.
Lumpawaru.
Lumpawaru.
Chewbacca's a mean dad.
Itchy was in remember that Battlegrounds that we used to play? Star Wars Battlegrounds?
Oh, I
He was a
remember that.
character
He was in that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. One or two.
Not Battlegrounds. What was the Battlefront?
Wait,
That's
wait.
what
One
it
or
was.
two.
Was
There's
there
two
two?
in both of them.
What's the thing we used to land all the time?
That's Battlegrounds.
Battlegrounds.
And there was only one.
There was
no,
two.
there was a two. There wasn't.
Yeah.
Was there
I
two?
have
I
both
don't think
of
I
them
ever.
somewhere.
Well, two just recently, or within the last few years, just came out, didn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought it did.
They haven't come out with one for a
Itchy's
long
full
time.
name was Achichakuk. Achichakuk.
So there was Itchy, Chewy, and Lumpy.
Yeah, and then I can't remember the mom's name. Was
And
it
one
Mala?
built a house of sticks.
Was the mom Mala?
And one built a house of straw. And Darth Vader came and blew them all down with his stormtroopers on Life Day. And now you've seen the holiday special. Except for the whole B. Arthur is singing in the cantina. Jefferson Starship shows up. There's
And the
actually
first
a
appearance
very
of
cool
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett animated segment in the middle of this.
Probably the coolest Boba Fett has ever been.
Yes, his mom, his mother.
Yes, the coolest it's ever been.
Chewbacca's wife's name is Mala, or it's short for Mala Tubak.
She's actually got a cool Wookiee name.
Yeah.
Itchy and Lumpy are not cool. Are not cool Wookiee
Mala
names.
is a good name.
Mala's a good name. I would buy that as a Wookiee name. Itchy and Lumpy, not so much.
And apparently, according to the wiki, his father is Chief Kapakuka.
Kapkuka?
Yeah, that's it.
He was the one we saw in Revenge of the Sith, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
he is the one in Revenge of the Sith. And they all live together on Kashyyyk.
I thought it was
Yes.
Tarful.
Or Kashyyyk.
Tarful was the one we saw him.
Yeah, you're right. It was
He
Tarful.
was the chief I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So
either-
Tarful must die and
So-
this guy takes over.
Chewbacca's father,
Kapuku-
Itchy, must have
Kapuku-
usurped him after the Empire came in.
Kapuku
and-
was his father, though. Chief of the Kapuku. His father.
You guys haven't...
He's a splinter group of Wookiees.
You still haven't watched the first Rebels, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm misreading this. Atichakuk was his father, and he was chief of the Kapuku tribe. That's what it was.
So there's a splinter group of Wookiees that he was chief of.
Just a different colony.
Well, he must not have built his house in a very safe neighborhood, is all I got to say, because the Imperials landed, and they held everybody hostage, and nobody in town noticed.
It's true.
Now, after the Adventure of admittedly there's a little retconning going on here, but after the Adventure of Into the Sith, the droid army shows up, and all of the Wookiees everywhere are there to help fight them off. So he must have been in a really bad part of town.
Tarful came in and took over.
He had a cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Cabin in the
Backwater
woods.
part of...
That's what the Star Wars Holiday Special should have been called, Cabin in the Woods. Did I mention they sing lyrics to the Star Wars theme song?
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, it's
And
kind
not
of
the cool,
incorporated into the Life Day song, but yeah. Carrie Fisher sings it, Princess Leia.
Not as cool as the Bill Murray version.
It's actually the Life Day song, but it has the melody of Star Wars is built in with lyrics.
It's not as cool as the Bill Murray version.
No, I would agree with that. Star Wars,
Those crazy
Star Wars.
The ornament. Oh, yeah. So
there's a
this
Cornelius ornament.
No, and they have a really cool Star Wars ornament
Wow.
that they ruined.
1,000 points for getting back on track.
That they ruined with putting in
I thought
sound
for
effects.
sure we had completely derailed this whole thing.
We tried really hard.
Okay, so it's Vader on the slab. That'd be a cool ornament, right?
Vader on the
Revenge of the Sith Slater on the
immolation Vader.
I knew it tied together somehow.
And what would have been cool is if it didn't talk. Unfortunately, it talks, and it has that pitiful no.
That's what they put on the voice chip?
Yeah. Because it's that conversation. Where is Padme? Because what else are you going to put there? It just needs to be a figure that doesn't talk.
Agreed.
So maybe I'll get it and take the battery out.
What's wrong with just the
That would have been good, too.
that's a fine voice chip noise for that. No, you got to remind us of the bad
But I
stuff.
have 30 action figures that can do that. Wait, 31. We did get another one in Celebration.
So do I, probably. God, my life is so sad.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, let's move on to news.
But there's a Cornelius action figure.
There's a Cornelius action figure, so I'm hoping they're going to do more.
Ornament.
Yeah, you're right.
Ah,
There are Cornelius action
there are
figures.
action figures, but
And there's a new line.
not at Hallmark. There's a new line?
There's a new
of
line.
classic Planet of the
Of
Apes?
classic. They have
Are they any good?
Cornelius. The face is a little dark. It's got Zeus, who looks good, and a gorilla soldier, who looks good.
You know what else has a line of action figures?
They have a second wave coming out with Zira, another Zeus, and Ursus.
He's ignoring me. He's trying not to let me deliver me.
Yep.
Do you know what else has a line of action figures?
Star Wars Holiday Special.
No. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They have their own Cornelius.
that no one remembers.
I remember Cornelius.
Of course you do.
I'm too bum huggy. What?
Bum huggy. We went from bum bug to bug humbug.
Humbuggy.
Humbuggy. That's it.
Yeah. What did you just say?
Bug humming.
Bug hummy? Humbuggy? Bug hugging?
Something.
News.
So
I'm too humbuggy to do news tonight.
Christmas and children in need. Christmas in need. Children in need happen.
That's your story.
You know, I think I only own 3 Christmas movies.
Well, Nightmare Before Christmas is one of them.
And Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that's good.
And then Love Actually.
That's a
I think
good one,
those
too.
are the only 3 I
Those
own.
are all great Christmas movies.
Two great Christmas movies and one okay Christmas
I
movie.
might own some, but I
They're-
haven't watched them.
I don't acknowledge those.
Christmas in Need.
Celtic Thunder Christmas.
Speaking of Christmas,
She likes.
we got the
A clip.
Children in Need preview clip.
What do you
What do you
guys
guys
think?
think?
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Enjoyable.
He
Actually, what's a Coke?
He actually had a Coke here. Are you using that to chase whatever's in
Yes,
your
I am chasing my NOS with a Coke. NOS and Coke.
Nos and Coke?
What happens if you mix those?
It sure explodes.
Too much caffeine for
I
one
love how it
bottle.
looks like a nitrous bottle that you would put on a
It does.
on a vehicle. And then, of course, you've got a race car driver on the front of
It's
it. NOS.
very clever packaging. This
So the
episode
clip.
of Traveling Vortex brought to you by...
It's, it actually, they
high
sponsored this
performance energy
speedboat game that you can download on Xbox, and I can't remember what the actual name of it's called. But when in order to get your boosts, you try to run over NOS bottles. Seriously,
sense.
they're not just bottles, and they say NOS on them.
Not since Sneak King.
Oh gosh, such a bad game. Oh man, that was terrible. I did like the little go-kart game and the mini carnival game they
When
did.
he would surprise somebody with breakfast.
Those games come with achievements.
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
did.
did.
Did they?
Yeah.
Do you have them all?
No,
I think I have all except for the ones on sneaking, because when I first started playing sneaking, I went, "What the heck is this?" I shut it off. It's like, okay, that was 99 cents wasted right there.
It was only 99 cents. I didn't have them, so I don't know.
I think I paid full price for all three of those. I think I paid $3 for them.
Were they $3 at the time?
3 at the time with purchase of a whatever meal.
I got them for $1 with the purchase of a meal.
That must
Maybe
have been
they were
after
trying to get rid of
Christmas,
them.
trying to get rid of them.
3 apiece or 3 for the
3
3-pack?
3 apiece.
See,
$2.99.
I thought I paid
Steep.
$3 for all of them.
I thought it was steep selling them for 99 cents at CD Trade Post.
Oh, is that how much they are there?
That's what when I worked
There you
there.
go.
They're probably like a nickel now.
Yeah, I'm sure I paid $1 for each of them. I bought them all at the same time too because they were trying to get rid of them. Children in Need preview.
Then you had to go and you had to hide.
What'd you guys think
Hide
of
in the dumpster. That surprised the guy with breakfast. It's like, who would want food that's been in a dumpster? You didn't think this out very well. And why? I mean, I loved The King. I absolutely loved those commercials. Were the greatest things ever. But the game was just.
I don't know. The Wake Up with the King commercial.
Okay, that one was.
pretty
Well, you
creepy.
notice they didn't
Yeah.
do too many after that.
No,
one.
no. I think that
Pretty
kinda
much was the nail in the coffin. But. Yeah, they didn't think that came through.
Our
very
UK
good.
listeners probably are off to YouTube. What are the commercials they're talking about?
your 2 YouTube lists so far today. All of the Christmas specials, the Star Wars holiday special, and now all the Burger King commercials with the King.
So,
And the Doctor Who holiday special part, if you haven't seen it, from Children in Need.
Yeah.
See how I brought that back around.
I don't get too excited about clips. I just
Yeah,
can't.
it was.
It was nice to see Dan Starkey without makeup,
Yeah.
aside
Yes.
from ears,
Yeah. Aside from yours,
which I didn't know he was going to be in this at all.
I'm
so.
sure those were his ears.
I've got pictures
Well,
from him
yeah,
at Galley.
I
met
He's
him
got
at
pointy
Galley,
ears. He
so
looks
he's-
just like
he's
that.
got ears
He
like
wears the
this.
little green stocking cap
Yeah.
that goes down to his knees.
He's a great elf.
Yeah, he really is.
And the other guy from Misfits is a pretty decent elf. He doesn't look as creepy as he did on Misfits.
No. Not much to say about
Yeah.
Children in Need preview.
Dear
Nick
Steve,
Frost makes a great Santa
Why
Claus.
is
We
the-
knew that from the
And the doctor's wearing a hoodie.
series finale, but is
he
wearing
did
a what?
appear to be
A hoodie?
wearing a hoodie, didn't he?
Yeah.
It's weird.
I wasn't daydreaming that because he came out of the TARDIS and I went.
See, even the thumbnail
Clara,
on
get
YouTube.
in the TARDIS.
It looked almost like jammies.
Maybe it's
Did
just-
he have the star jumper on underneath though?
I couldn't tell.
The sparkly one.
It just looked like a hoodie to me.
Ah.
Maybe it's a sparkly hoodie and he had the suit coat on over the hood in the last time, so we didn't know.
Maybe.
No. So what can we confirm? We can confirm that Clara's in it.
Yeah, that was kind of the surprise for me though because we didn't get any Clara clips at the end of
Yeah, that's true.
And
even in the
Dan Starkey
next
is an
trailer,
elf.
yeah.
And that's about it. Note to Stephen Moffat. While we love all things Doctor Who, and fully support the idea behind the Children in Need special, you could really raise a lot more money if you gave us a mini-sode.
Yeah.
And if you told us in advance there's going to be a mini-sode, but we're only going to show it if we hit X number of dollars by 6 o'clock, that would be really kind of the way to do it. And then you could kind of sweeten the pot and say, hey, it's Paul McGann. You know, you could probably end world hunger with that. I think if you did that, if you played your cards right.
No child would go hungry again.
Yeah.
Nope.
So just a note to throw that out there on the table because I know you listen. But yeah, clips. It's a clip.
Yeah.
It was something.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
If it weren't so far out, I wouldn't have watched it. I didn't watch any of the clips they released before the new episodes. I just waited.
Well, that's just it. Is I
But
feel
we're-
like I don't
we're
want
a month and a half away,
Even
so
though I'm
it's
sure
like-
they're not going to give me some huge plot revelation, but at the same time, I don't want to spoil myself on the magic of watching this at Christmas.
Yeah.
So I don't want to know.
I don't want to reach a part of the episode of, oh yeah, I've seen that in the clip.
Didn't bother me.
Because now there's a whole minute and a half, 2 minutes of this that I've seen, and it's like, here's that scene.
The
Yeah,
exchange.
You're right. It's waste. You probably shouldn't watch it now.
Yeah.
You've wasted it. So you just
I'll just wait.
While they're watching
I'll
the
just,
Christmas
I'll
episode.
just, I'll just wait
skip
till who
Christmas.
comes back on
skip
next
the
year.
Christmas episode. Yeah, wait until next August
Humbaga.
or Easter Sunday.
Humbaka?
Humbug.
Humbaka.
That was the grandmother.
Humbaka.
Humbaka
She
and
was
Itchy.
grumpy.
No, I'm pretty sure it's a second cousin.
Was her shortened named Hummy? What are you laughing at?
I'm going somewhere different with it.
Okay. All right, move on. So a math for the Children's in Need preview.
Yeah. Again.
Something I think we're all excited about, though, is the Doctor Who convention that was planned for Kansas City has renamed itself and relocated to Wichita, and is going to be October 2nd through the 4th, and it's going to be called Time Eddie. And
The first name was better.
they've announced guests.
Now we're excited.
Well, no, this will be awesome, especially if they can scoop the actors and presenters up somewhere in a time eddy, and then they come in like in that little triangle
That would be
thing,
really
and then they
cool.
drop them off in Wichita. That would be awesome. But Sean
That's
wants
how they
the
have to
old
deliver.
I want the
triangle
old
one. He doesn't want
I don't want the
tornado
vortex
looking
swirly
one.
one. I want the trapezoidal one.
Trapezoid.
Time
That's what it
scoop, not
scoop.
time eddy. By the
Oh,
way.
yeah, that's true.
is. Oh, that's
What's
was
a
a time scoop.
What's a
Oh,
time
the time
eddy?
eddy is the. Isn't that what that thing in Day of the Doctor was? The swirly thing? Isn't that a time eddy?
I'm gonna look it up.
No, it was in the Three Doctors. That's what William Hartnell was stuck in when he kept coming back.
That's
to visit.
what it
That's
was.
a time eddy.
That's a time eddy.
On fire.
Time eddy.
There's a guy named Eddie Arnold Time. No, it was an American musical television series. Sorry.
Eddie Arnold Time was a series.
Yeah.
A musical?
55 to 57. Bit before our time.
Quick to YouTube.
Oh, Eddie Arnold Time wasn't his name. It was Eddie Arnold Time. It was time for Eddie Arnold. Eddie
so
Arnold
there's
was
no
a country.
there's no
was a
there.
country singer
There's
from
no
like,
Like Howdy Doody
1950
Time.
something all the way
Okay.
to whenever he died. I presume in the 80s.
The time Eddie was not only in Three Doctors, it was Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
I knew it was somewhere else.
That's how the dinosaurs
Okay.
came through.
Oh,
It was a
yeah.
time
Okay, it
Eddie.
was
yeah.
a time eddy.
I knew it had been mentioned before. Time Eddie.
Well, obviously much more recently than the Three Doctors.
Yes.
I mean, we had to go all the way to Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
I like Time Eddie. It's a good name. Peladon was
And
better, but
that's-
Time Eddie is a good name.
That's where the Fourth Doctor and Romana are trapped in a time eddy in the Five Doctors.
Aha!
Oh, they're trapped in the Matrix.
No,
No,
they didn't
no,
make
no,
it to
no,
the
no.
Matrix.
Yeah, they didn't make it to the
Everyone
Matrix.
else got to the Matrix.
No, nobody's in the Matrix.
Oh, nobody's in the Matrix.
Everybody's in
In
the
the Death Zone?
Was it a time eddy?
Yes,
According
I
to
knew.
the
I
TARDIS
thought it was
Wiki.
mentioned.
According to-
Actually, I was certain it was mentioned in the Five Doctors. I was
If you
certain.
didn't go there, you went.
Oh, well, because that's when I thought. Oh well,
You
it was
went-
the.
you went Day of the
but you're right.
Doctor.
It was Time Scoop. Well, no, the Time Scoop was what I was thinking.
Oh, that's-
of,
okay,
was
I
the
see
Time
where-
Eddy.
okay. All right,
But
I'll
you're
give
right. They were trapped
give it-
in
I'll give
because
it
it was
to you.
mentioned. Said they were trapped in a Time Eddy.
I'll give it to you.
This Eddie person needs to stop
Yeah,
kidnapping
he's
people.
mucking things about.
So, time Eddie guests. We have Andrew Cartmel,
Script editor.
Peter Purvis, Deborah
Stephen.
Watling,
Victoria.
Victoria,
I
and
keep wanting to confuse Vicky and Victoria, even though they're not in any way.
way different eras. Yeah. And friend of the show, Daphne Ashbrook.
Yay!
And the host of the con is going to be Peter Pixie.
Whoever that may be.
Whoever that-
It sounds like he's a professional con presenter. is
Yeah,
what he
and
is.
apparently he knows a lot about Who, too.
Professional.
He's a
preventer.
professional con preventer. Why would you hire this
Keeps
person?
you from getting conned.
Oh,
Yeah. No, presenter and master
He-
of ceremonies. So
And early registration is available. And single day tickets are as little as $20. Regularly, they'll be $40 to $50. While 3-day adult tickets are $55 until November 23rd. And then they go up to $75.
which is still a pretty good deal considering it's a 3-day con.
Yeah.
yeah,
So if you're in the area, you should be. Well, first of all, you should be listening to us. Assuming that you're in the area and listening to us, you're now hearing me say this. So the next thing is you should be planning on going to this con because
agreed.
we need to support.
Finally, something in the Midwest.
Yes. Actual Midwest, not North Midwest like Chicago.
Yeah, that's true. I guess we do consider Chicago Midwest.
This. I don't.
It's North Midwest.
It's East Coast.
Something in the Plains states.
I don't know if I go that far.
If you
John.
look at a map of the United States, Chicago's not exactly Midwest. You know what I mean? It's Mideast at most, but there's already a Mideast, so you can't say that.
Yeah. There's a Middle East.
Not even on this continent.
Not even on this continent.
Galley has announced a few more guests.
If they get a
also.
convention, I will fall out of my chair.
Be impressive.
Although they were on track to get one before us for a while, I thought.
Who's going to be at the Baghdad convention next year?
Eric Roberts.
And his wife.
She was very lovely.
The same could not be said for Eric Roberts.
The same could not be said for Eric Roberts.
Oh, so galley guests. More guests than
Please continue with ramrodding this show down our throat, Keith.
I'm going to keep it going forward.
Glenn and I are not going to make it tonight.
That's our problem.
That is our problem.
Much better.
Oh, I thought the fan was causing feedback.
Nope. It was causing me to be too tangential.
He wasn't focused.
Well, now you're in the dark, and we can't necessarily see what you're doing, so... I think he's sleeping.
There's some guests they've announced that I don't recognize.
What? Great. Hey, galley guests! People we don't know!
I don't know the two you will know for sure. Sean, you can finally get your Bruno Langley autograph.
Oh, Bruno's coming.
And Carol Ann Ford's coming.
Yay, Carol Ann Ford.
That's the exciting news. No offense to John Schwab, Matthew Jacobs, Gabriel Wolf, and Ross Mullen, who I'm sure you're delightful men, but I don't know what you did.
They're behind the scenes, if I'm not mistaken.
They're voice actors and whatnot. In fact, Ross Mullen most recently did an episode, had a role on Time Heist.
Did he play the teller?
Yes.
Here you go.
And also White Walkers on Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Piqued Sean's interest.
I can't get excited over a White Walker. There's only...
Because they're in that all of, like, maybe the whole series 2 minutes total.
I feel
all
that,
of the time that they're in it. Just 2 minutes.
There are certain people that I'm genuinely excited to go meet because, the man behind the mask, doing a creature feature or something like that. I mean, that's some of them are quite legit. And then there are others where it's like, I was Stormtrooper number 5. Okay.
Unless you're the one that hit your head.
Unless you've played Azal, Omega, and who was the guy in Hand of Fear?
Eldrad.
Then,
If you're Omega, that's enough right there.
We met him, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
I knew that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that.
We should
Lovely man.
We should republish that interview just because it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good interview.
We should.
Glenn and I did a really good job on that.
Pat ourselves on the back.
Well, Stephen Thorne was great.
We weren't.
Stephen Thorne was fantastic.
We weren't cheesing it or nothing in that.
We couldn't wipe the smiles off of our faces after that. Should we talk some Doctor Who Legacy?
Should we talk some real news or something?
Here's big news. Huge news in the Doctor Who Legacy world right here. Ready? I'm going to give you the scoop right here.
Here it comes.
I have beaten Series 5.
Holy crap.
Really?
I am done. I'm now in wait mode.
Because you're
catch
already
up
through,
and level up.
Because Hunt for Red October.
Well, no, I haven't played that one. Let me go find that one.
Hunt for...
I've dropped the Sean Connery
Greyhound 1.
Greyhound 1, yeah. Well, because
you did that early.
I did that early, and it's integrated in, which
It's
was the worst,
epilogue.
because I was in that area where you drop all those characters, and it had dropped all the characters, so I went a long time without dropping anything. Luckily, when you get to the, spoilers, Brigadier level, where you get the Brigadier, instead of getting the Brigadier, if you've already got him, you do get a time crystal. And I did verify that happens every time when you play it again for the first time. So, because I chatted with some other people that have
every
done the
time
same
you
thing.
play it again for the first time.
Right, every time. So, like, if I played it again for the first time, I get one. If you play it again for the first time, you get one. If you play it again for the first time, so every time.
So if we play it outside the extra area, in other words.
Right. And I presume
is the
only.
break considered
Only if you have played Hunt for Greyhound 1.
Groundhog 1.
Groundhog 1. Greyhound 1, and
Bill
you've
Murray's
dropped
been
the
at
brig, which the brig is 100% drop,
Is
then
it?
you
Okay, I was
get
gonna
a
ask
time
that.
crystal if you played in Season 5. If we
Okay,
haven't
now wait a
confused you
minute.
anymore.
You've confused me. So, Hunt for Greyhound 1 is an epilogue to...
It's not. Well, it is
Season
but
5
It's not
story arc,
No, it's
right?
not an epilogue. It's actually kind of sandwiched in the middle. From what I presumed it moved.
So it's a one-off story.
It kind of dropped in there, and then I think the last 2 levels, because they were new to me, or 3 or 4 levels, were not in Greyhound 1. Well, because I believe once you finished Greyhound 1 and dropped the Brigadier, you were done, but there were further levels beyond that in the actual game, if I remember right, because I played Greyhound 1 months and months and months ago. But the last several levels I had never played, so I think what they did is they dropped them in there and moved the
They
last
pulled
2
out
or
the
3
ones that were you
levels.
could win, drop characters. And
Might
So
even
how
be
far
more
do I
than
need to go in Season 5 before I jump over to Greyhound 1 story-wise to make it make sense?
I wouldn't even bother.
You don't have to jump over.
Yeah, I would
You
just
just go
stay
through.
in it because it's
in there.
You're in there as well. You could play Greyhound 1 outside of it, or you could play.
So wait,
Greyhound
okay.
1
So if I
within
play
series,
if I play
or
Series
season
5
you'll reach
to
a point.
completion, I will have played all of Greyhound 1.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh,
And you don't have to go over and play it separately.
I thought it was separate.
If you haven't gotten to it yet, you can play it separately.
If you're wanting to get those characters early, Hunt for Greyhound 1 is weighted for lower teams. So if your teams aren't built, because oh man, I struggled when I got into that. Greyhound 1's portion of Season 5 was much more difficult than playing it outside of Season 5. Much more difficult.
Well, maybe I'll do that then. Because
I did it because I wanted all those characters, and I wanted.
Well, I
the
knew I'm going
brig.
to go.
Man,
I know I'm
brig.
going to go get the characters anyway.
Yeah,
eventually,
yeah.
I was.
And all
I'm
of them
really
are
trying
100%
to
drop. So that was a nice thing. That's another thing. If you play through Season 5 and you didn't drop the characters that are rare drops, you could go to Greyhound 1 and play an easier version and get those characters. So it might be better to farm them that way if you're going to farm characters.
I was just trying to do it, in the order that I thought it happened, which was
It's not
7,
epilogue.
6, 5,
No, it's
Greyhound
not
1.
So you're in 5 now, right?
I'm in 5. Yeah, I'm in. Where am I at? I've kind of stalled out just a little bit, just because I've kind of hit that plateau where my team is okay but not great.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm at too.
Season 5's really
Hard.
Oh, it's tough. You got to have.
It's a grinder.
And what I appreciated about Season 5 the most is you had a number of levels where they forced you to play with a certain doctor and then pick who you wanted to play with them. So there are certain levels like you have to play with 10, and they give you 10, and then they give you an option of picking.
Oh, see, I haven't got to any of those levels yet,
Those were neat because what it did is it forced me to play with some doctors. It forced me to play with some doctors that I hadn't played with before. So that was kind of cool. And they did a lot of unique things, and the story is really, really good. So,
Sean, you have passed me.
Hooray!
I am stuck on Beast Below Tower of London. I cannot get past it. And as far as
Oh, yeah, that one was kind of tough.
as far as Hunt for Greyhound 1, I'm stuck on the Snowman, where you drop Bessie. And there's still characters I haven't dropped.
Are you playing with the first Doctor?
Not at the moment.
Play with the first Doctor. That sounds weird, but he really is the key. At least for me, he was the key for a lot of the early part of Season 5.
What's his ability again? Unlock all gems.
Unlock
and
gems
Cure Stun.
and Cure Stun, which you see a lot of the locking in the early parts.
I just can't seem to do enough damage.
I really had to go back and bulk my teams up. I didn't. Well,
Maybe
I
I need-
maxed
maybe I
out
need-
a lot of them that weren't quite up to 40 on Bunched in order to
Maybe I
mix
need
some different
to
combinations.
go above 40 on some.
And I have 2 characters already above 40. So
Because I've got none.
I think my Amy is above 40, and who's my other character? Oh, Nefertiti is above 40, and that really helped because they get that second gem. So those levels where you line up green gems for those 2 particular because their bonus gems were green. Those levels when you got green, you were getting damage from them. They were able to deal damage as well as the yellow and blue that they are individually. So
I think you'll be very surprised if you knew who my 2 above that level are.
I'm guessing one is K9.
One is K9.
You might have mentioned that.
I did mention that, but do you any idea who the second
No
person
idea
is?
who the other person is.
Nope.
I can't remember her name.
You don't know either.
The Time Heist chick.
Really?
Wow, you really played a lot with her.
She throws a ton of damage.
Because most of my... Does she? Maybe I'll... That'll be my next goal is to beef her up.
Her ability sucks. Her ability is that...
Just damage.
Give a random gem a bonus.
Oh, yeah.
Which always turns out to be one that I'm not playing with.
You don't necessarily need
health. And it's like, okay. But she just throws a ton of damage because I put all of her points into attack as opposed to health or anything like that.
I think I might need to go
when
back.
When that multiplier starts bouncing around, there are times where she throws like 22, 30,000 points of damage. Now, of course, the enemies are so powerful, they're like, ha, 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 I scoff at the face of your 30,000 points of damage. But,
30,000?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh, and definitely adding her to a team.
I might need to go and I made sure all my characters
It'll probably
are
take you a while
balanced
to
and
boost her
stacking.
up, because...
Oh, no, I don't want that.
42.
TARDIS. I have to go back in and...
Wow. So anyway,
I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but you'll go back and look. She does not.
As you're looking that up, we this week we got the Roy the Centurion costume, and Roy the Roman costume, and
Well, it's only 3,000, but when it's, like I said, the multiplier starts...
They have
bang,
dropped.
bang,
I didn't
bang.
think it was that much. They have dropped.
She does a lot of damage.
They have dropped a code now that you can get that's available in order to catch up your Series 8, and you get Time Fragment, but apparently you don't anymore because Keith tried it and couldn't.
No, I got it.
Oh, you did get
I
the
did
Time
get that,
Fragment.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
Time fragments and time crystals.
and just so I can do a little more bragging, I have 95 out of 121 characters dropped now.
Oh.
So I'm...
I have 80 out of
I
121.
finally got Metacrisis Doctor the other night.
But I haven't played any of Greyhound 1.
Finally got Metacrisis Doctor. Oh, and I got Rusty, Fan Rusty. He's in the fan area now.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
yeah.
Keith, you need to unlock
Yeah,
that fan
still
area.
haven't unlocked
You
it.
need to unlock the fan area, man. This week, by the way, in the fan area is 150
And they added
percent
a bunch
experience.
of
Yes.
new
And
stuff
And another new
to
level.
the fan area.
I
And
got, I got Kate
there's a
Stewart,
new
which I think
expert
we all
level,
got
too.
Kate, didn't we? Because she was one of the Series 8
Yeah,
ads
yeah,
this
yeah.
week, yeah. Or last week, I guess it was. Which I think I started working on her because I
started
liked
working on her, too.
her ability. What was hers? Hers is
turn-
increased 5% damage to all
Yeah,
green attacks
yeah.
for one turn, which is good. That's a solid one, especially since I've got a very solid team with some green on it, but I've also got Artie Maitland, and he turns green to pink. So if you can get Kate to turn him, or to give him 5%, and then turn him, it really benefits your health. So, who else unique have I gotten? Probably not much. You guys have the TARDIS yet?
Nope.
You guys haven't gotten that far then. Okay.
Nope. I've had the chance to drop the Triceratops and didn't. And I'm on the Bessie level.
Yeah, the Bessie level. That was difficult. I do
That's the one
remember
I'm
that
stuck on.
Yeah, I do remember that one.
And then there was one
You
other.
guys got the Whomobile yet?
Nope.
No.
That's coming up too.
I think that's one.
Here's the Brig. Can't remember what's the Brig's ability. I can't remember. Let me find out. Does anybody want to know?
Nope,
did
don't
I
have the
dropped
Brig.
I dropped this outfit last night too.
Oh, the
The
Cyberman
is
outfit.
what it was. Yeah,
yeah.
Cyberbrig.
yeah. Which I think is again another 100% if you play one of the Series 8.
Yeah, it was. Well, once you get the brig, if you don't have the brig yet, it's not there.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. Well, you you have to play Greyhound.
I'll have to get the
Wow.
brig and then go play it and get the costume.
Bessie's ability. Do you know it?
No.
That you're working on it. After 5 turns, does 1,000 damage to enemy. Heals team for 1,000. So I think you get both.
Wow.
When you get to 5 turns.
I have 66 out of 121 characters.
Oh, that's not too bad. Sean, how many you have?
80 something?
I was 80.
You were 80 something.
Catch up, Keith.
Yeah, I'll
So-
start playing more.
Who we got? Cyber Danny. That's right. We got him this week. Or there was like several that we added this week because they
Yeah.
kind of played catch up as well. There was a few weeks that we didn't get.
I have a Strax costume I need to drop. A Third Doctor costume. Wilf. The Whomobile. I've passed a level where it can drop.
Okay, so
I
you
just haven't. That's a Greyhound one.
It's a rare drop. So.
Yeah, so I haven't got it yet.
Wilf drops up to 6 red gems after the turn ends, which is kind of handy. If you've got a...
I haven't
Red
unlocked any of the
And then
new
I've got the-
people from the fan area.
And I've got 13 out of the 20
I s-
doctors, but most of those doctors are the not the fan doctors, the The doctors in the expert levels,
level, yeah.
which are tough. Oh my gosh,
I'm missing several characters from season 5 too, like the Ganger dude and Liz 10.
I have 13 doctors. Woo! Got the whole pack. So anyway, that's Doctor Who Legacy. So we're still excited about that, and look for soon a interview with the creators of this game. We're excited to be able to talk to them. It was one of the things that kind of spurred me on to really push to finish this, because I thought, well, one of us should be done with this by the time we talk to
You just want to surprise them again. Somebody's done with everything.
Yeah, well, it would be Glenn, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, however, and I'm waiting.
How are you liking the game? It's great. I'm still waiting.
When is the new content?
When do we get new content?
I'm actually a little surprised that
lots of new stuff with the expert levels.
With the addition of Tom, that they didn't revamp the
I'm
front
surprised.
Yeah, we
paper.
don't have a new, especially since they just patched it. So
I mean, not that I'm disappointed, because I liked this particular
right.
grouping.
It's cool.
It's a cool.
Well, somebody else is in there. Capaldi's not. No, Capaldi is.
No, everybody's in there.
It seemed like there was one still missing. I guess it's just Tom.
Tom.
Well,
Tom.
yeah, obviously, but I meant one besides Tom.
43 crystals is my total.
Well,
Okay.
but Tom was a special code, or you could get him, or is it you can get him later, or you can buy him. Code purchase, but he's coming later. So I bet we get it when we get
they
the
actually
series.
add them proper.
Whatever next one, 4, I suppose.
Series
They're going
4.
down, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think they'll start over again after we get past the movie, series 23 or whatever.
I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that. Maybe.
Because they said they wanted to go all the way back.
Yeah, they
and
do want to go
a lot
all the
of
way back.
classics.
Yeah.
So.
Although we're getting a lot of classic stuff now, because I think they have always been worried about the longevity of the game. So
Yeah.
I certainly appreciate the fact that we are been able to get all of the Doctors so far. Some of the classic companions. There's still a bunch of them missing though. I'm itching for like Stephen and Ian
Jamie.
and Barbara and Jamie and
Zoe, yeah.
Victoria.
Leela.
Oh, yeah. I bet we get a Leela soon. In fact, I bet we get a Leela in whatever story introduces the Fourth Doctor.
Oh, yeah. I bet we'll get a Romana there, too.
We might get a Romana and Romana 2. My question
probably not
is, do we get a Romana and a Romana 2, or do we get a Romana with a Romana 1 costume that's Mary Tam and a Romana 2 costume that is Lalla Ward? They probably won't do that. They'll probably split them up. But
I don't know. You can only play with one Doctor.
that's true, but in the sense of
You can have more than one.
I mean, you can have more than one of. You can have the fan Jenny, and you can have Jenny. So it's two different versions of Jenny. I can see.
Aren't
that
there?
maybe.
There's another.
Yeah, but they have
there's a
different
couple
abilities,
others
though,
that are the
so.
same character, but just like younger, and you can have them on the same team. If I remember correctly.
No, because young Sarah Jane's different than,
Oh,
or it's a costume, right?
Close.
Well, yeah, I believe it is.
There was somebody that I thought, I got the same person on here twice.
Just anywhere in the middle. There you go.
Silence. Adipose. I did buy the adipose.
Well, Amy, but that was an alternate reality Amy, so that to my mind actually does count as a
Agreed.
Is it different?
There is a different
character.
Amy, yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of.
You got a lot of people you could level up. Look at all, look at all those flashing.
I'm waiting on some time crystal, or not time crystals, some fragments.
Yeah, because you don't want to use one you're not concentrating on, and then one of the ones you've been waiting to finally level up that you keep, one of your primary teams, and then you've used your time fragment.
Honestly, my biggest problem is that
thinking of,
I get wrapped up in whatever team I'm playing, and then I start changing a couple of people out just so that I can continue to level people up. And then before long, I have ruined the really good team that I had because I switched out that one person, and then I switched out somebody else down the road, and then and I keep forgetting. It's like, dude, you've got like 6 slots. You can put people and
Can I suggest
keep a whole team together and just move them
if
down.
you keep going in season 5 that you build a backup solid team? I would highly suggest.
Oh yeah, well, this isn't even a good team that I'm playing with.
I got very reliant. No. I mean, another tank team or another solid. I mean, highly leveled team because don't take season 5 in there. Don't take anybody into season 5 with a very low level because you'll get a lot of experience to rank them up. Don't bother with that because you're going to get stomped.
Yeah.
But find your B team. Because you're going to have some combinations you come up on that no matter what team you've been playing with all along is not going to cut it for you. I learned that way early on.
You got to have a sub team. Yeah. And honestly, if you're playing specifically to level up a team, fan area, weeks like this, where it's 150 experience, that's the way to do it. Just start at the beginning of the fan area and just go, and just walk through those levels. And, man, you get so much experience on those. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I have so many people that are sitting here waiting to upgrade, is because I just don't have the time crystals to upgrade them.
Right.
They've gotten they've got, or not the time crystals, the time fragments.
Yeah.
They've got the experience down, but I don't have the funds to do it. And by the way, Dr. Legacy, more black and blue time fragments would really help me out there.
Is there a cap of how many you can hold?
150 of each one.
Which is nice now, because their cap used to be like 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
40, I think.
40. Yeah, you're right. It was 40. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That was a pain. I kept dropping stuff going, I don't need that, and I don't get it now. To wait for later.
Oh, another pink one.
Oh, boy.
More pink. Great. All right. Yeah, well, that's what I seem to get, of those hearts all the time. All the time.
It's never the one I go to play the level for.
Yeah, exactly. So, we do want to mention...
Is it just me, or does anybody else, when the time fragments start dropping, do you drop into a little Lucky Charms thing? Oh, pink hearts, yellow moons, blue diamonds,
green clovers, blue diamonds, and purple horseshoes, and now there's like a whole plethora of other
and
ones.
red balloons.
They just keep adding them.
Salted all of our Scottish viewers, Irish viewers.
And our Scottish, because you called them Irish.
Yeah. Anybody from the Isles. Sorry, you were saying?
We should mention...
Oh, we should mention... This is off Legacy, if we're done talking about Legacy.
Are we done talking about Legacy?
Are we?
Yay, more Legacy.
Legacy. We love you, game. We love you, Legacy team. All right. We should mention that we did get... I'm only doing this because it's in this order. We did get some quasi-feedback from Robert.
Yes.
We did get your feedback, and he kind of gave us an itinerary of places he will be. He are now where he's at. But we'll tell you where he's going to be, because you might have a chance to visit with Robert when he has a table at some time.
And this is Robert Collins, friend of the show, and a local author.
Yeah. Regional author.
Regional
he's
author.
in Kansas City.
He's going to be at the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library on December 6th for their...
We need to try to get by there and see him.
Great writers
We've never
right
actually
here.
met him.
He was at the Kansas History Center Kansas History Museum, and what am I looking for? What's the other... The History Society.
Historical Society.
Historical Society. Thank you.
Yeah.
He was at the Historical Society one time.
The History
and
Society.
none of us were able to get a chance to go see him. So.
And he was at the library one other time, yeah.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't remember that.
What date is this?
This is December 6th, 1 to 5 p.m. It's the library's second annual literary fair.
Oh, cool.
So, lots of great writers, including
He was probably
Robert.
at the first annual literary fair. That's why I missed it.
And then he's also going to have a table at TopCon next year.
Well, we know for sure, if nothing else, we'll be able to catch him
Yeah.
then.
And
It's a whole year from now.
It's a
he's
whole year
looking
from
into
now.
some other cons also, he says. So, if you're in the Topeka area, go see Robert at the library on December 6th.
Hi, Robert.
Thanks for writing in, Robert.
We also should mention another Patreon supporter.
Yay.
Yay!
Sean,
Thank
wanna
you,
take
Eric.
over? Okay, Eric. I was going to give it to Sean because he's kind of the Patreon baby. Not baby. He's the
Patreon
He's
baby.
the father of our Patreon support.
Now, am I the father or the baby?
The baby is
Both.
Patreon. Yes.
Am I itchy or lumpy?
Well, you're a baby. Quit acting like a baby.
Yes, Eric just pledged to our Patreon account, and thank you so much, Eric. And just a reminder to the rest of you, if you have not contributed or pledged or supported, you certainly can. You can go to our Patreon page, and it's probably time for us to repost some links to that. But we are still very much in the need and want to solicit some funds from our wonderful group of listeners out there. And once again, thank you. Both for the people who have contributed, and no, we have not forgotten about your contributor gifts. It's just, I'm sorry, it's taking a little more time than I want to put this together. I'm trying to make it nice for you, so I'm working on it.
Coming soon.
Coming soon. I promise you, coming soon.
Well, the way I look at it is the more Patreon subscribers we get, the more work you have to do. So I appreciate it. In fact, if you want to give Sean more work, please subscribe to our Patreon. That'll do it.
That'll do it right there. If you would like to ensure that Sean doesn't graduate, please throw more money at the podcast, because he has a choice now. He can study for finals or not.
Are prizes on their way yet?
Not
Speaking
yet.
of which, you're still working on that.
I'm still working on those.
Packaging
Those
those
will
up,
come
getting
up,
those ready.
go out soon.
Okay.
I'm going to do them all at once, and I'm waiting for one address. Now that
Terrific.
Brittany
Okay.
is relocated.
Yeah, what was the deal with all you people relocating at the same time?
Holly was at a new address. Brittany's at a new address.
Yeah, in a different state completely.
Completely go the other end of the state. Or the other end of the country.
Yeah. So I haven't forgot about you guys. You will be getting your gifts.
And I haven't forgotten about you supporters. You will be getting your welcome packages eventually.
And I haven't forgotten about you supporters and listeners. You will continue to get the graces of my voice on your podcast every week.
So magnanimous. We're very lucky to have him.
Yeah. See what happens when you build them up pre-show?
I know. It's terrible.
It's such an ego.
Heap more praise on me, please.
Moisturize me.
Oh, great. I'm the Cassandra of the podcast.
Glenn, you've always been
I was going to throw my hand at you.
You are the face of the podcast, let's be honest.
What's up next?
Feedback.
Feedback. Do you have a song?
I don't have a song.
Feedback. Feedback. Let's read some feedback. Oh, that's not. I changed the words. Jazz feet.
Jazz feet.
I thought I'd change that too. Why not?
Pretty sure I get to sue now.
Well, you send your lawyer over and we'll talk about the non-copyright you have on the song.
That and Happy Birthday are both mine. But
Was it done as a parody?
Did you know that Happy Birthday is not... Sorry.
I was wondering if you would remember that you talked about. As soon as you
Did I
started
talk
it,
about that on mic?
you
I can't...
did. I thought he did, didn't he?
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did.
I'm pretty sure he did.
Oh.
First up in feedback.
Wait, what are you doing?
You're right. Holly. Holly writes, 203.
Pointing to something you missed. Let's just say it now. He almost missed
I
the
almost
feedback.
missed your feedback, Holly. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't expect. I'm in a mode of everything comes Saturday
Yeah.
or after.
Holly is one of our early submitters.
Yes,
She
I
really
got to
is.
remember now. I got to look now that the season's over. Look at the whole week.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Keeper of the feedback. Falling down
Gave
on the
him
job.
one job. He didn't even come up with the open this
I
week.
didn't this week.
You had one job. That's great. Who are the chefs? There's another commercial for you to look up on YouTube.
Holly writes,
Great googly moogly.
"Hey guys,
No, she didn't write that.
I have to say that my first introduction to Frobisher was through Big Finish, then the Prisoners of Time comic book series. He certainly is quite the character. Hopefully later on, Frobisher will show up again in a Companion Chronicles audio adventure.
Here, here.
Holy terror! The TARDIS is not wanting to work because both the Doctor and Frobisher are taking advantage of her. Say it ain't so. The Doctor telling Frobisher that he really isn't a penguin, but a whifferdrill, Dill, and Frobisher defending himself had me chuckling. I love the banter between these two. Pepin was an interesting character to say the least, and him being saved by the temporal grace of the TARDIS was a nice little nod. Frobisher saying that he wasn't a god and changing his tune when he was about to be killed seems to be par for the course in a lot of stories dealing with that sort of thing. The scene from Ghostbusters comes to mind. Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
No, you gotta say it like not Peter. Yeah, Peter said it.
It's all right.
No.
I don't do a good Bill Murray impression.
It was our man. It was Winston.
Oh, it was Winston. Yeah,
Oh.
it was Winston that said it. Yeah.
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
All in all, a fun little romp. The little boy was quite creepy, and at first I thought it could be a Cyberman due to his voice. The reveal of who the boy's father was and what actually happened between them was quite emotional. I have to say, the hard-boiled detective aspect of the Maltese Penguin was good. Frobisher telling the doctor that in no uncertain terms that he was not going to go traveling with him, and the doctor leaving a few minutes later. Frobisher is talking to himself, saying that if the doctor does come back, he's going to tell him no. And then the knock comes on Frobisher's office, and the next words out of his mouth are not no, but something along the lines of, just give me a couple minutes, I'll be ready to go. Then the other shoe drops. It's not the doctor, but Alicia needing help, and how Frobisher has no choice but to change into the Sixth Doctor. I have to say, after watching the series finale of Series 8 and listening to this, Alicia, near the end of the episode, the actress who played her had the way she said some of her lines reminded me slightly of the Missy Master. The reveal at the end of the audio that Alicia was actually Frobisher's ex-wife, Francine, in disguise, was a twist that I didn't see coming. I'll wrap it up here. Looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts on these two stories. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
And congrats on the move.
Yes. I think it's been a while, but congrats anyway.
Up next in feedback is Chrissy.
Chrissy writes, do you want to build a penguin? Dear Vortex boys. No, I'm not going to sing that line. Is everyone dealing with post-Series 8 withdrawals? Yes. One thing's for sure, after 12 weeks of deep discussion about characters and story and being emotionally wrung out, I was kind of looking forward to some fairly fun and straightforward Big Finish stories. And then I listened to The Holy Terror.
All complaints should be sent to Sean at Traveling Vortex.
And rethought that sentiment, but I'll get there. And if you want to talk about serendipity, let's talk about the week leading up to you guys. Talking about a giant talking, shape-shifting penguin is the same week the weather turns freezing cold. I'm not pointing fingers here, but I'm not pointing them either.
Again, all complaints should be sent to Sean at TravelingTheVortex.com.
Another nice bit of serendipity. Next week's Big Finish adventure takes place at Christmas.
Flip-flop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have saved it.
No.
I thought we're going into the
start
Christmas
celebrating
season.
and listening to Christmas
Shut up,
on
Glenn.
November 1st all the way to January 6th. I'll give you January 6th.
The 26th.
Chrissy, we just wanted
January 26th?
No,
Oh, okay.
December 26th.
No, January 26th.
we just wanted to make sure that you were
You got to count Epiphany.
well indoctrinated.
The Catholics do. Why not?
I'm not Catholic, though.
Yeah, but it gives me an excuse to celebrate Christmas longer.
Like you need an excuse.
I'll give you to the 30th, really. Then you got to start to the next holiday. New Year's.
No, it's just one of the holidays in the Christmas season. It's one of those ones that falls in
Christmas officially
season.
ends New Year's Day. That's when the whole thing is kaput.
And you're both wrong. We get Three Kings Day. Come on, that's part of the Christmas story. January 6th. Epiphany.
No.
Yes.
No.
Hey, Disney goes all the way to like January 11th.
and
their parks are decorated all the way into halfway into January.
And they're wrong, too.
Well, I ran a story like 2 weeks ago
Rachel,
that they
help me
started
out
decorating
here.
already.
Rachel, help me out here.
No.
No.
Where were we?
Humbugging. Just a note about the Frobisher comics. Our library had the World Shapers comic collection, and I read it a while ago. Even just going off my fuzzy memory of those comics, I loved Frobisher as a character. He's funny and offbeat and just a joy to read. I'm glad that Big Finish included him in a few of their audios, and I wish they'd bring him back for some more one-off stories. The Holy Terror. I hate to bring this up, but the little boy in this story reminded me so much of that half-vampire baby from Twilight. That, plus the sheer creepiness and twisted premise of this story made me really not like it. It's too bad, because the farce of the death of the God Emperor and his son replacing him at the beginning was quite funny. Probably the reason they had Frobisher be the companion for the story was to probably help lighten the mood of it. Mm-hmm. The mental image of a talking penguin being worshipped as a god is pretty funny. Basically, give me the funny parts with Frobisher being in charge, and let me ignore the creepy parts of the guy murdering his son over and over again. The Maltese Penguin. Did any of you read the Melody Malone short story Angel's Kiss? This story reminded me so much of that. I really enjoyed this quite a bit, especially that they played around with Frobisher's shape-shifting abilities within the story. I mean, how can you not have him impersonate the Doctor at least once? Plus, it gives Colin Baker a good excuse to attempt an American accent. Which isn't that great, but that's not the point. Honestly, if they could get a whole spin-off series of Frobisher doing his private investigating thing, I would totally be all for that. I feel like there could be more audio stories like this, if they really wanted to do it. Well, I'm going to try and thaw out. I'll talk to you later, Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Our last bit of feedback comes from Phil.
And Phil writes, comment, question, comment.
I'm a Dave!
Do you think if Danny hadn't been listening intently to Clara's phone call, he would have seen the car and did one of those weird front flips over it for safety? Hot dog Phil.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, he would have.
It's all Claire's fault.
Yeah.
1,000 points have been deposited into your account, Phil.
All right.
That's it for feedback.
Let's move on to our reviews. What
are we doing in which order?
Let me ask you that.
I think we should do
because-
them in release order.
Okay, and I am perfectly fine with that because if it's my opinion, well, let me first state that if you go by the chronology, Maltese Penguin, based on how his timeline works out, technically takes place before, even though it's released after the Holy Terror. However, I think if you just came to
We're approaching it from a Big Finish
if you
perspective.
and if you approach it like that, where you have no background on Frobisher or very little background on Frobisher, it really doesn't matter too much.
No, it really
So-
Yeah, either way. I vote we discuss Holy Terror first.
It doesn't matter to me. That's how I listened to him. Was in that? No, I'm sorry. That's not how I listened.
That's
to
how
him.
I listen to it.
I'm fine with either way. So if that's how you guys want to do it, let's
I
do
want
it
to get the
that way.
bad one out of the way. I'm going to tip my hat here.
The TARDIS lands in a... I'm assuming this is supposed to be foreboding. It says forbidding castle. I don't think that's the right word.
I don't think that word
In a
means what I think it
time
means.
of religious upheaval, the old god has been overthrown, all heretics are to be slaughtered. Obviously, this isn't the sort of thing which would happen there every day, just every few years or so. Soon, after the Doctor and Frobisher are hailed as messengers from heaven, they become vital to opposing factions in the struggle for power. But will they be merely acolytes of the new order, or will they be made gods themselves? Evil is growing deep within the crypt, and the pair soon find out that they will be lucky to escape their new immortality with their lives.
I'm going to give it a dun dun. Can't give it that third dun because I didn't like the last third of it.
Okay,
Two
yeah.
acts were pretty interesting.
I mean, really.
It almost gets the dun dun dun, but no, it
because
doesn't get the
was-
dun dun
It
dun.
was a solid dun, and it was a solid dun, but then it went. It just fizzled. I won't give it the horn, but it's just,
Yeah, I can't give it the horn
because
because I
Frobisher's still there. So.
I can't give it the
And
horn.
6 is still there.
because the first half was so enjoyable, and then it went
Off the deep
weird,
end, yeah.
weird, and
Pretty much
wonky
once the
and-
child shows up, it kind of spirals
Even
out of
before
control.
that, it starts going.
Let me
there.
first say this is I will give them an A for effort because I think they tried something, especially this early in Big Finish's run. They tried something quite unique.
That's true because this is what number 14
Yeah,
of the
I
main
mean
line.
it's way early on, and I didn't put the number on that. Yeah,
it's number 14.
Number 14. So it's very early on. They tried to get a little. I wouldn't even call it high-minded, but what would be like maybe a step down from high-minded? It's a little bit surreal. It's a little bit kind of it's an edgy approach to storytelling, to a story that does follow some trope in a way, but is still different enough that it really makes its own story. So I will give them the credit that they deserve for that. I think the problem is that it begins to fizzle, especially after you did. And in my opinion, I thought there was more of it than you're saying half. I think 2/3 of it was very fun and comical and kind of a spoof and kind of making fun, a satire.
It was
maybe
Douglas
even.
Adams.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really sort of was. Yeah.
So
and they set up
very
this
Douglas
really
Adams
cool
to start with.
atmosphere and world that I enjoyed exploring, and then it just kind of all falls apart. The idea of
I don't know that it falls apart, but it certainly takes a complete left turn.
it kind of abandons what it was setting up to an
It does.
extent.
It does.
Because all these other people were
That's
created
good.
by what's
Abandoned.
his face.
Yeah,
It
it
abandons
abandoned.
everything that it set up, and what they set up was really cool and really interesting. Unfortunately, we went to some other place.
But see, I don't think it was unfortunate because that turn really kind of made you do the aha, because it was because going by that whole prison aspect and one man suffering for his crime, I thought was unique and cool. I just think that the dialogue and the story didn't play out well. That's the problem. Is it fizzles? It just kind of fizzles as a story, and it almost, maybe this is what you're saying. Correct me if I'm wrong. It almost de-relegates everything that came before.
Yeah,
it
it
kind of
definitely does.
unsignifies everything that came before.
All of that didn't really matter because they don't really exist.
Right,
They're all
right.
figments of his
There you go.
imagination.
Yeah.
And is it okay? So the last few Big Finish we've done have kind of been variations on a theme, and I'm wondering if that variation on a theme started
here. That's I thought the same thing.
knowing now that it's was issue number 14,
Which is funny that I think we sort of set up a lot of those stories that kind of followed the same idea or premise.
And we
set those
reviewed
up
them.
and we reviewed them and said, wow, how great, how
And
original,
they were
we
close
love this,
together.
and not knowing that, hey, we've already kind of formulated this idea or theme.
And even
in the
then,
past.
compared to releases, the ones we reviewed were still separated far enough. If you listen to them when they released, they wouldn't feel like repetitive.
I should
being
say that-
repetitive, where for me at least, it did.
Yeah. And I should say that, well, because we listened to them so
Yeah.
close,
Yeah.
so recent.
And
in our
it
mind.
was-
I certainly will say, though, that of the ones that we gave favorable reviews that were kind of that same surreal, prison setting, trappings in your mind type thing, the ones that we did give good reviews to, I think maybe they learned to do it better. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah,
That they
I
learned
would
from
agree.
this one
Yeah.
how to maybe make it a little better. So, landing there and just really setting up this whole idea of what the pharaohs did, what the Romans did, where the king was God, and king and God were the same thing. And so after you succeeded the throne, the former God was essentially just, okay, you recant that God, and this is now your new God, which to me is a jovial concept anyway. It's so ridiculous that you would do that. And I understand why it was done in ancient times because our knowledge and information was so limited. But to go into this situation and kind of play fun with that idea was neat. And
Well,
to
they
really
don't
have
really
the
establish when this is set,
well,
so you can.
but I don't even get the impression that it's set Earth-based anyway. So
No,
it could
no,
be
it's
anywhere,
elsewhere,
right?
yeah.
So it could be early in their civilization, had it been what was really happening.
Yeah.
Well, just the whole idea, the conversation right off the bat. Who do you worship? Well, of course I worship the almighty, great, and powerful Pippin the Fourth. Unless that's the wrong answer. Oh yeah, because he drowned in the bathtub and Pippin the. Oh well, in that case,
Yeah.
would you like to recant? Yeah,
well-
I think I'll recant.
Yeah.
Well, I just thought that whole thing was so fascinating, exploring this idea and this guy who doesn't want to be God and can't be God, and then Frobisher eventually taking over, and it's like, how are they going to get out of this whole situation?
That to me was
That
the nugget of the
fascinating.
story. That was where it was so cool. And of course, the Doctor's going, well, this can't mean this, and why are all the books in the same handwriting? And this, and it was
that
like,
stuff.
okay, well, now we've started to set up
It's
the
the
little
stuff-
mystery that's going to explain why. Because surely this society can't have gone on in this format. I mean,
For
just
too long.
for too long, and it sounds like it's been going on for a very, very, very long time. It's like you can't support the population if you're immediately beheading 10 of them or 10% of them just for
Heretics.
just for heresy, because and especially the way these things go. You drown in the bathtub. Talk about a rotten emperor. He fell asleep in the tub and drowned. That's kind of on the list. You don't do that. So I was so excited by everything that they set up initially, and it was so much fun. And then when the mystery got to be explored a little deeper and the cast of characters kind of... because there's several
They
tropes
start
in this.
killing them off pretty quickly, too.
Yeah, but there's several tropes, and I kind of hate to harp on it, but another one is, I'm going to bring it up at the very least, is we've got that church element, that any time we kind of go into that religious trappings, it tends to really darken the mood and bog the story down. And this one went right in, and I was like, well, please don't make it dark. Please keep the light, keep the fun, keep it. No, we just right into the thing. And that wasn't necessarily the fault of it. It's just, that's the trapping, that's the trope.
It is
that
a
you
trapping,
use
but
to
it's
get
not the
over
typical church and hierarchy.
It was different.
It goes back to the ancient times, the way of
Yeah,
religion.
no, I agree.
And so I appreciated that aspect of it. They didn't have a lot of the kind of the modern religions, and by modern I mean even Christianity, Islam. They didn't have that.
No.
The different levels and hierarchies and things like that.
Just the generic base of there's a high priest and he's going to turn against you.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I
mean,
like that
at
they even
least
called
we're playing
attention to the
Yeah, I mean,
cliches.
we're playing with the trope and the cliche.
That's what
of
made
it,
it
but-
good.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they played with those ideas and those trappings, and almost made them farcical. I mean, that's what
to an
I
extent.
liked about this, is the fact that they were pointing to this, almost showing you how ridiculous this is, and how ridiculous it would have been in ancient times. So,
and that was all fine. But again, as it went, then we got to the sadist elements of it, with the woman who's kind of waiting to be tortured, and by God, you better do it properly. And there were a lot of little moments as this went on that just made me very uncomfortable, and not just in a, oh, the story's turned dark way, but in a, wow, you're really kind of borderline. I mean, what is the topic that we're talking about here? Are we talking about sadomasochism? Are we talking about abusive relationships? Are we talking about no, it's patricide. Great. I mean, it just kind of kept going, and it kept getting darker and darker and darker, and I was like,
One of the subjects I did appreciate them exploring later was the parental love stuff, of how Pepin just wanted his mother to love him, and for some reason she couldn't. That's an interesting idea to me, because some people just can't love their children. And I thought that was kind of a neat thing to explore in an audio adventure.
yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think I wished it had been handled a little differently with that. And maybe the problem is,
If it hadn't reached this conclusion of suddenly, oh, now I get it, and I wish I could love you, but I can't. Now I'm going to die.
yeah, I mean, it was a very...
Well,
It was wrapped up too quickly.
again, though, it's not like they surprised you with that element, though, because if you got wrapped up in the romanticism of that, then you missed the point of the whole story.
Yeah, no.
And so I love
feeds
the
back
idea
to
that...
the scribe
Right.
killing
I
his
love
son.
the idea,
Yeah.
though, that, well, and not even so much that, but I love the idea that they're really playing fast and loose with this whole idea of a religious society, and how mom is always, or one parent is always evil, and one parent is always good, and you have that wicked stepmother, but really is your real mother. Trope, and the same thing with having a brother that is polar opposite of the other brother, and the one brother obviously is good, so he has to be the king,
And the
even
other
though he
is-
goes along a tyrannical path, because that's kind of what's encouraged with this position. So when they get to that point, it's almost like they're trying to tug at the heartstrings and trying to romanticize it, but it's still making fun of the idea that it's like we got to that point in the story where somebody has to grow and change. Oh, but wait, we're still going to make fun of that idea, because that's not what this story's about at all.
Yeah.
That's not the subtext of this story.
And so far to the point where it was even cheapened a little bit, because it wasn't necessarily... Because she wasn't a real character.
Right.
It wasn't a real heartfelt emotion that she felt. It was all being
because
fed
the
to her
scribe
from the
scribe
scribe.
But if
felt
it hadn't
that
been
change.
cheapened, I would have been upset, because then I would have felt like they were genuinely trying to create a subplot here, and then they were going to rip it away from me. And that would have actually made me mad. But not ripping it away by feeding into, as then you just said, what was being explored in this one man's mind because of the relationship with his child, that worked for me because it really that makes the end kind of play better because you've got that right smack dab, or it's not even in the middle, like late in the game. But,
pretty late in the game.
Yeah, but you have that element leading to that. So that's what's being manipulated by everything that's the trappings in his mind. So I liked that too. I didn't have a problem with because I went into it going, this isn't the Doctor and Frobisher interfering with society and changing things, although I think they indirectly do. I think they're kind of what leads the scribe. What's his name? Eugene, kind of down that path, and it probably accelerated the process. It could have gone on longer, perhaps, but I guess you could argue that the brother was going to do this at this point anyway.
Yeah,
so
it
was
resets every so often. This happens, no matter who's there.
And the father had died so easily and early on too. So,
Yeah.
And Pepin was going to advocate the throne. Had Frobisher and the Doctor not shown up, he would have at that point,
Yeah.
and the events would have set forth, sooner than later. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just there was a lot of. It's another one of those that I think had some really interesting ideas. The idea that this guy's in prison, and that this is the form the prison takes. I think that's a really interesting idea. That he's kind of forced to, just like Oedipus and the guy with the ball rolling up the hill and that kind of stuff. That you're doomed to repeat this over and over and over again. Taking that and putting a sci-fi twist on it. Okay, that's kind of cool.
Isn't that Romulus and Remus's story?
No.
Was that Oedipus?
No, Oedipus is the guy who married his mother and kills
it wasn't Oedipus.
No, who's the guy? I said Oedipus and the guy with the ball. Who's the guy with the ball? He had to roll the ball up a hill.
I thought they were brothers and they both were living in torment, but I can't remember what the other story was.
Well, they might be, but neither one of them had a ball.
Well, it was a boulder. He had to push it up the hill, and then it rolled down,
and
then he had to push it up the hill, and it was a perpetual
Yeah.
punishment, essentially. Well, the other one was the other brother was tied to a rock, and
The
vultures, ravens came down and
yeah.
picked at his eyes or something. But I don't know what that I may be crossing stories here because I don't know what the
I don't think the guy
would
with the
have
boulder was Romulus or Remus.
been. Okay, I thought that was the brother's story, but
The eye pecking might be, but
somebody will tell us next week.
yeah,
We don't look it up now. Somebody will.
Keith's looking it up.
I'm looking. I'm trying to see.
So I mean, like I said, there were some moments of that I did really like that I thought maybe were going to redeem, the dark elements of the story, but then the child showed up, and
That's my only problem. Is the child was the same voice of the guy that was doing Eugene. They just manipulated the voice, and so. Here's my other problem: is you talked about the books that were being written, and they were written so distinctly, and it was basically the same thing happening over again. And the books were the exact right length. He had started a new book when a new, basically this whole thing reset. So that was already telegraphed to me. I was like, okay, well, there's something mysterious about Eugene. He's obviously been the one writing all these books all the time. So I thought that immediately. So then when we're building the mystery of this child, whose child it is, my first thought was, well, it's going to be Eugene's kid. And that was way early on.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's what makes the rest of the story bad for me, is because number one, you were too obvious about whose it was and what kind of was going to happen. Now, I didn't formulate the idea that he was in a prison and that he had killed his kid, and that's why there was a setup. So that was still a surprise, but a lot of that felt spoiled to me early on, and so that's why the last third of the book audio really kind of falls down for me as well, because at that point I'm just ready to find out what the conclusion is, not the mystery anymore at that point. So.
Yeah, I knew the kid was going to be his voice. It was no surprise.
yeah. And there were a lot of, I don't know, things that.
And I got tired of hearing, "Are you my father? Are you my father? I'm looking for my father."
Are you my mummy?
I would have been perfectly fine.
Christmas isn't Christmas without my bread pudding.
I would have been perfect. I would perfectly fine with a child playing that character, or a woman who does a good child's voice, because they do it a lot in audio, especially ones that have a really heavy theme. Instead of subjecting a child actor to that, which they can, but instead sometimes we'll use a female who can emulate a male child's voice, and it's a little less jarring on the person that might be carrying, a little less adult themed, or a little more, can be a little more adult themed, which this I think sort of is. The best parts of this are the Sixth Doctor and Frobisher.
Yep.
I absolutely love the fact that they step in the nick of time. Oh, the whole idea of the High Priest doing a card trick in order to be the miracle, which is wonderful because that's set up by the brother who says, "What are you going to do this time?
Pull a rabbit out of that. What did you do last time? Pull a rabbit out of the hat.
And what is it going to be this time? You're going to saw a woman in half? I love the whole idea of, the best sorcerers in ancient times were those that were the best at sleight of hand. That's really, or illusions. That was the best part of it. That's poking fun at that whole idea, and that magic and mysticism has never existed. That's simply they were the ones that were best at being the Amazing Randy. But the cool thing about that is that the doctor materializes there, and even though it's still a scientific basis, gives more of the illusion of the fact that it's a miracle. And then to top that off, you've got a penguin, a talking bird, walking out of the TARDIS who begins to speak, and then everybody's in awe because,
that's
God. Better than a card trick. Well, eventually becomes the God. Yeah.
Well, they think he's an angel,
right? And it's Pippin that actually kind of puts forth the idea that, he should be the god because, they're putting flowers on the altar of the TARDIS.
On the console.
That's so cool.
I really like the bit where, they made a statue of you. Yeah, but my nose isn't quite right.
So he fixes his nose.
I'll fix my nose. So that was great. That spoke such volumes for the character of Frobisher that he would change his appearance as opposed to let somebody die.
And he's such a
great companion.
Lovable character, too. And the guy that voices Frobisher, hadn't heard this before I started reading the comics, which, by the way, I read all the way up to this. And so I had all of this background with Frobisher, is very nearly the voice that I heard in my head as I was reading the comics.
Kind of.
So I was like, oh, this guy nailed it. This guy. Of course, now I listened to Maltese Penguin first, so not before I read the comics, but in line of the two audios. And by the time I got there, again, it wasn't Colin Baker's version that he was doing, which was not very good. But the guy that was reading whenever he was,
when it was
the
Frobisher,
Penguin, it was that guy's voice, and I went, oh, that's dead on.
See, and I actually had started the Maltese Penguin not really intending to start the Maltese Penguin. It was just, it just kind of one of those things, how you just start playing around with something, and then before you're wrong, you realize you've listened to a half an hour of it, or you've read 30 chapters of a book you didn't mean to pick up.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those things. So I was, that's exactly what a private eye penguin would sound like, and then started reading the comics. So I had it in my head and this is it. This is Frobisher. This is who he is.
So the actor was Brigham Elijah Dashwood III.
Yeah, I do
from
remember.
My favorite Big Finish.
I actually remembered reading that in that Big Finish companion that I have.
He was also in Zagreus. He was the recorder.
Okay.
He was also a police officer in Casino Royale.
Oh, the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be nice.
Which one?
I don't know. That was the James.
Which one?
In the James Bond film Casino Royale.
Probably the most recent one, because the other one was done in the 60s, and I have a feeling, at least from his voice, this guy's probably in his 30s or 40s. So I don't.
Robert Jezik. He's also in Red Dawn, which we have not listened to yet.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was fascinating was the Sixth Doctor in this, because while it's not a Sixth Doctor heavy at all. In fact, I think that the Sixth Doctor is played to the background for most of this story.
And toned down a lot.
It's very in the nature of Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor that we've grown to love. And we're only 14 stories in, and only a third of those, or maybe even a fourth of those, are Colin Baker by that time. Yeah. So he had already really kind of gotten back into that role very easily. It just tells you how easy it was for Colin to step back into that role, even 14 in. Before that, I mean, you really kind of expect somebody to hit their stride, which I attribute this to Davison. It wasn't until much later in his Big Finished run that I felt like Davison really kind of hit his stride and got back in the shoes of the Doctor. Colin got in much sooner, so by the time he's here, he's already strong for even having kind of a background character position in this as well. So, and the pairing of those two is so wonderful, and I think that's that's the magic that's captured on the comic pages. And I think it also helps that Colin wrote a Doctor and Frobisher story that we'll get to someday called Age of Chaos, and I think he really felt he knew the Frobisher character as well. And so getting into this, I think, really helped that he even had some background on it himself.
Yeah.
Because the relationship is there. When you read the comics, you really kind of get a feel for their relationship together and how wonderful of a pairing they are. I mean, it's now become just nearly as close to Evelyn and the Doctor.
Yeah,
I almost like this pairing just as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful that the Sixth Doctor, outside of the television series, which he was so shorted on, has had the most expansive brand of pairings and stories and unique ideas and almost maybe even kind of outside the box thinking as far as his Doctor goes, because he was the brash and garish and bright coat, and so it makes sense for him to have these Doctor Who and the Pirate type stories, and just he really seems to fit. They fit him like a glove, and putting him with a shape-shifting Whifferdale who likes to be a penguin is just perfect.
Yeah. And almost brings him down a little bit as a character, tones the brashness down a little bit when you have a penguin.
It certainly does.
companion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he grew as a Doctor because of his pairings.
I would
think
agree.
he grew as a Doctor. I mean, obviously, you kind of have to semi-retcon this, but he grew as a Doctor because of his pairings with Evelyn and Frobisher, and even, I think, Mel, to a point. You could attribute some of that to her, even though we haven't done a lot of Sixth Doctor and Mel. I think even she I think he mellowed beyond Perry, and maybe it's because of the events that happened with Perry that might have changed him as
and
a
also
character.
two personalities sometimes just clash and they fight, even no matter how much they love each other.
Yeah.
And that's just the Doctor and Perry,
Yeah.
where Six and other companions don't do that.
Well, even Six and Perry in the comic stories and the audios that I've heard really even are well. I think we discussed how by the time Planet of what was the first time of the Trial of
Mysterious
Time
Planet.
Mysterious. By the time Mysterious Planet comes down, their relationship has kind of leveled, and they seem to like each other a lot more. And Doctor, while he still kind of comes across with that front, of that brash front with her, still kind of jokes with her and is almost. That's now comedy that he does that to her, and she understands that and kind of laughs it off as well. It starts out kind of that way with their exchange as they find the underground tunnel.
Well, I could tell, even going back and watching Time Lash for this week's Friday Night Who, there were moments where they started off at the beginning of the episode a little, as they've been intending to write them, as antagonistic and butting heads. But by the final episode, or the end, because there's only two, the end of when he's going to go off and do his thing, and she jumps into the TARDIS, and he's like, I told you to stay here, and she's like, well, I'm coming with you anyway. And he gets very tetchy. He gets very, no, you're not going to do this. And you can see that he's hurt her feelings by this. But the reason that he's doing this is to save her, because he knows what he's up to. He's going to go throw himself in the path of this, missile. And it's really touching to see that. And I think maybe that also plays into it, that she kind of realizes the bluster is to, for her quote-unquote benefit. And it's that he's really a nice guy. And just, doesn't want to see her get hurt.
But Holy Terror, I come down on the me side there at the end. It just I had high hopes for it based on the first 2/3, and then it really is a letdown there at the end.
Well, interestingly enough, this is written by Robert Sherman, who we've actually reviewed a lot of his Big Finish stories. And I would definitely put this at the bottom of the list, unfortunately. But he, the Holy Terror, the Maltese Penguin, the Chimes of Midnight, Jubilee, which he then adapted into Dalek for the television series, and Scherzo.
So he's kind of hit and miss there, because we didn't like Scherzo.
We didn't like
much.
Scherzo either, but no, I thought we did. I thought we did.
Maybe I didn't like Scherzo so much.
I remember
I thought
liking
that was
Scherzo.
That was the one where they were walking around, they couldn't see, and
in the glass
they were
bubble
in the first
and
petri dish. And,
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that was the one we really, really liked, but then we felt like let down because of the rest
came
of
after.
everything.
That was the start of
that was
diversion.
oh wow, this is so different and amazing, and how cool is this story, and we didn't know what was going on, and wow, and then everything else failed to live up to it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
We have not yet listened to My Own Private Wolfgang. I'm kind of curious now.
But moving on to another Robert Sherman penned story.
The Maltese Penguin.
The Maltese Penguin.
Frobisher is employed as a private eye to investigate Alicia Mulholland's fiancé, Arthur Greengrass. As a penguin detective would be somewhat conspicuous, he instead chooses to disguise himself as the Doctor.
Dun, 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 dun! I love this one. This one was so...
How do you get a dun-dun-dun out of that guy over there?
My gosh. This one was
It was very enjoyable.
So tongue-in-cheek.
I think it was a little too tongue-in-cheek for me. I enjoyed it, but I felt the private eye cliche was a bit too strong.
See,
and I a little bit of that goes a long way for me. I don't like it too heavy, and this was a bit too heavy. Everything else was enjoyable.
This is
my only complaint.
This is why it works. Frobisher was introduced as a private eye, and very much in the Philip Marlowe, Mickey Spillane genre type of private eye. Mike Hammer, not Mike Hammer.
Mickey Spillane's.
Well, Mickey Spillane. There was another Hammer. What was the
Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer?
Mike Hammer. That's what it was. Okay, it was Mike Hammer. It was very much in that same genre. The using the all the way down to the Maltese Falcon ideals, and just really it's framed around that same story. In fact, we've even got a character that I imagine looked and sounded like Peter Lorre from the movie.
Didn't they even reference him in the story?
The guy who looked absolutely nothing like Peter Lorre.
Although I had this vision of him as looking like a lizard, but having the Peter Lorre eyes. I mean, I think he certainly had. That's how I imagined it. Even though the comment is not even looking like him.
That was the beauty of it, because Mel and I went and saw the Maltese Falcon when they did the movies on the lawn down at the Capitol, and I'd never seen it before, so I just saw it like 2 years ago for the first time. And this story is the Maltese Falcon. I mean, all of beat for beat. It's not necessarily a direct ripoff, because it does its own thing. But it's
Frobisher is no
Humphrey Bogart. He's no Bogart. But it is beat for beat, where he takes the case and the hot dame comes in, and then they try to kill him, and then this happens, and then there's the frog guy who's kind of in charge of the whole thing, and this and they're searching for the item, and I mean it's very dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
So to take that story and kind of put this different twist on it and insert, because well, if we're going to do a hard-boiled Frobisher story, let's do Bogart, let's do the and so I think
you have to go there with
the Maltese Falcon.
We're
Penguin.
talking about
there's so much that works with that.
We're talking about a person who is a species of Whifferdale that can transform into anything, and his preference is a penguin.
Because it's simple.
So automatically it can be a Mickey Spillane novel. It can be the Maltese Falcon done tongue-in-cheek.
My friends call me Frobisher. My enemies call me Mr. Frobisher. And the junk mail department of the Galactic Reader's Digest call me Mrs. F.R. Rubbisher. But that's neither here nor there.
I loved it. So well done.
I'm not disagreeing with you guys. It's just, when it gets to my detective stories, I'm okay with the initial cliche start, but I like them to get away from the voiceover a little bit and do more. And it felt like it relied too heavily. I know that's part of the Maltese Falcon, and that's part of this genre, but I like it when this genre pushes its boundaries a little bit more than this did.
Had it been a story in the main range proper, I might have had a little bit of trouble with that, because then it would have been caricaturist like Unicorn and the Wasp. However, this being a special release,
and short.
because it it's shorter, and being kind of a special for subscribers initially. Now you can download it, whether you're a subscriber or not. But this being an initial treat for subscribers makes it kind of even softens that a little more for me.
And I think as the story went on, I enjoyed it so much that I was able to look past a lot of that. My initial, it's going to be really heavy in this, okay. And then I kind of embraced it and went along with the ride and really enjoyed it.
I think it's one, too, that if they ever do another one, I don't think it will be as...
It shouldn't be
if there was ever
they should
a
do a
sequel.
different type of detective
story.
story.
Exactly. If there was ever a sequel to this where it was going to be a Frobisher detective-type story, if they ever decide to give Frobisher his own series and do just the detecting stuff that the Doctor's not even involved in, I don't think it would. I think you would still have, again, the trappings and the
Nuggets.
setup, but I
Bits.
don't think it would be as patterned on, that formula as this one is. I think they'd mix it up a little bit
I
more.
hope so.
And I think it's just because they're doing Maltese Falcon that they kind of had to do.
Yeah.
As much as I like this story and enjoyed it, I don't want to see or hear another detective story with Frobisher. And I'm coming from this from a little bit of a bias, having some of the background, because number one, I really like Frobisher and the Sixth Doctor together. I would rather have more of their adventures together in time and space rather than having any sort of this backstory. I
agree.
liked this because Frobisher is a detective from the very beginning. In his first story, The Shapeshifter, that's his profession.
Yeah.
We come in right. He's in the middle of a job when we start this comic, and he ends up going with the Doctor because, well, for financial reasons initially, but then ends up
and the
staying
Doctor
with
was
the
his
Doctor.
target.
Yeah, and staying with the Doctor and moving on and doing something else. And I think that what the Maltese Penguin does really well is explores the idea that after a companion leaves, what do? Their life isn't so much significant anymore because everything was grander in that adventure. And so I think this story does a nice job of teaching Frobisher that what he's doing, even though he's trying to do what he thinks he does best better,
What he tries to do best.
what he tries to do best better, he still, at the end of this, gets back in the TARDIS with the Doctor and goes on for more adventures because he, at the ultimate, realizes, I'm not as good at this as I think, especially since his ex-wife shows him up again. And so going back on, I would actually like to see more adventures of he and the Doctor together.
I love the
I
bits
think
where
this
the
was
Doctor
perfect
showed up. I love the bits where the Doctor showed up, and he's like, "Well,
are you sure you don't want to go?"
I'm kind of lonely."
Save the universe again.
And I like the fact that they gave Colin a chance to do more with this because anytime Frobisher had morphed into the Doctor, it was Colin Baker
Colin
doing the
doing
voice,
it.
doing a passable American detective of the 1940s voice. Although the other actor, whoever you just said his name a little while ago, he does so much better. But
Robert Jezik.
Robert
Yeah.
Jezik does so much better. But it was passable. And I like the idea because I could visualize Frobisher as the Doctor a lot better hearing the Doctor's at least voice come out of him,
Yeah.
even though it's in a different dialect, which I think is wonderful because something that's established early on in the comics is even when Frobisher changes, he still has that Brooklyn accent. He still has that very New York American accent that he does, no matter whose face it's coming out of. And so that worked in such a way in this that you could really visualize the fact that it was the Sixth Doctor's face, but it was still Frobisher in there.
And I kind of have to go one step further, is that I don't want to sideline Colin for the passable American accent, but the
It
fact
took
that
me a few minutes to realize it was actually Colin doing
the fact that it
voice.
was Colin doing Frobisher doing the Doctor,
Yes, yeah, exactly.
and that's what
Yeah.
made it really work.
Yeah. I like the idea too of Frobisher being so comfortable in his penguin look that he stays in his penguin look even as he returns to being a private eye. Because when we first are introduced to Frobisher, and I'm trying not to go too much into the background here because we'll reveal he's not. He's really his true form is
But
just
we
kind of
warned
this-
everybody we were going to mention the comics.
Was this egghead look?
Yeah.
It wasn't until they went to Antarctica in one of the comics or where they thought was Antarctica, that he really kind of decides that he likes that penguin shape. Although he does later attribute it to the fact that his wife chose that shape a lot too. His ex-wife chose that shape a lot too. So
especially in
that
this
was,
story.
Yeah, and so that was another contributing factor. And I do like that the comics at one point, and I'll drop this little nugget of why we see Frobisher as a penguin most of the time, is because he suffers from an illness at some point, at a point in the comics, it's called monomorphia. And he's not able to shapeshift at certain times, which I think was actually a cheat for the comics, because if you've got a shape-shifting species or a shapeshifter who could morph into anything,
It's a comic book.
It's-
Draw him as something different.
well, here's the thing, though, is it easily gets you out of a lot of situations. So if you create a element that makes you not able
Right.
to do
The
that,
suspense
it
is
doesn't
gone. Yeah.
it doesn't become an easy way out. And it's funny because in that first set of comics that we'll review, there are a lot of times where they play fast and loose with that. One writer might use it frequently, and in fact, Robert Sherman uses it pretty gratuitously in the fact that he shifts back and forth between he and the Doctor, and some of them stick very adamant to the fact that, well, I'm not able to do that right now. I'm not able to get out of this situation. So they played very fast and loose with the idea that he had monomorphic.
I don't remember which one it was. There's a wonderful scene where he is shapeshifted into like a Conan the Barbarian type, because that's what the world that they've landed on is.
I think it was Polyglot, I think. Well, Once Upon a Time Lord. Once Upon a Time Lord.
Was that?
Yeah, I believe so. It was early on. It was relatively early on.
Anyway, so they've been captured and they're rounding up, and the Doctor says, well, maybe you should do something. So he goes and becomes like a giant-sized Conan the Barbarian, and he's towering over all these guys going, ah! And he gets shot or something, like in the leg, and immediately falls over. Because it's like, it's not the T-1000. You cannot necessarily morph into a brick wall and go, haha, bullets will bounce off me. You're still flesh and blood. Yeah. You're just a different shape of flesh and blood. And I thought that was a really cool...
Well, even back to, we've all read The Shapeshifter, when he is in the dumpster hiding out as a hamburger, and somebody takes a bite out of him, and you notice in the next frame, when he's back to his, what we presume is his original look, he's got a Band-Aid on his face. On his face up here. So I thought, you're going to take your licks no matter what your shape is. Now, there is one comic where he morphs into, I think, a big dinosaur-looking thing just to scare people off, and it works. So that was good as well. But again, it's one of those handy things that can get you out of a situation too easily.
Well, and then later in the Prophet... The prophet, he threatens to transform into something, and they we're not even going to mess with it. We're just going to go ahead and run away now. Right, because I think at that point he had the monomorphia, and he couldn't.
Well, he had it on and off, so
he threatened that he could do it, and they all went And Frobisher's a great character. I 100% agree with you that I want more. I mean, I wouldn't mind. I would totally buy into. I don't think we need to, just from the standpoint that we've got Jago and Lightfoot kind of already doing the detective thing, so I don't think Big Finish needs to go with that. If they did, I would be on board with it, but I'd much, much rather have Colin and Robert Jezik back as the Doctor and Frobisher doing a series of adventures, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't. I really don't know. I mean, maybe they didn't sell well. I don't know. But
I don't even know that it would be sales, because I think back then they relied mostly on the subscription, which you paid a certain amount, and you were going to get a certain amount of. So I can't see that one story would have dipped subscription sales, because I mean, you could buy them individually, and maybe that particular disc didn't sell very well to the people that didn't have subscriptions. I think ultimately what it comes down to is they probably decide to explore more of the familiar companions with people, because they would be more familiar with Perry.
They tried to
Mel
go with more
and,
TV.
And so I think the Frobisher thing was something that was on the back of Big Finish's mind, and thought, we should explore that. We enjoyed when he was in Doctor Who magazine comics, and we should go somewhere with that. And was more of a nod to the Frobisher character, but realizing that maybe it is sales. Not in the sense that one didn't sell, but in the sense that they knew they could get better sales had they brought some familiarity and filled some of the stories in that weren't televised by putting those together.
I bet probably Robert Sherman said, I got this cool idea for, let's do Frobisher. And I had this, because Holy Terror was the first thing he wrote.
Right.
So it could have been a matter of, I've got this really cool idea, let's do Frobisher, and nobody else has come up with a good Frobisher story.
In the same vein that Moffat, I think, sometimes goes, I have a good idea, or his writers say, we have a good idea for this. I mean, one of the examples would be the Ice Warriors, which Moffat was ready not to bring back, and then when he had a great idea for it, said, let's do that. And so it probably in that same vein.
I would just think that if we're going to do, because the Sixth Doctor is obviously, he's had Evelyn, he's had adventures with Perry, he's had adventures with Mel, and he's had a couple of other newbies, hasn't he? Like specific to Big Finish, other than Evelyn.
Not that I'm aware of.
We haven't got to them yet, but I thought maybe there was one in there. But maybe.
Well, obviously Charlie at some point.
Yeah, Charlie rejoins the Doctor, but joins him for the first time. I thought those were his only companions. Maybe Charlie, Mel, Perry, and Frobisher.
Maybe not, because I guess Ange and Fritz are 7th Doctor and 8th Doctor.
In the
but that's in the book. That's
now in the books there might be other. In fact, I just started reading Mission Impractical, which is my next one in line, and Mission Impractical has the 6th Doctor, Frobisher, and Sabron Glitz.
Really?
Yeah, you guys would be surprised by that.
When are we putting that on the
Wonderful
schedule?
trio. Well, that'll have to go in with another when we do another Frobisher.
Another Frobisher archive.
When we go back and do those comics, we'll have to do that as well because it's another
Sablon
Frobisher
Glitz.
story. So Sablon, that's it. Sablon
But-
Glitz.
Now, okay, so being that not that the funds are there, but let's spitball and assume with technology today being what it is, that we could do a digital Frobisher.
Oh, absolutely.
And we could get Jezik to voice it.
Absolutely.
Do we want to see him paired up in an episode with Capaldi?
Oh, absolutely. Because of any Doctor that would be the oddest pairing, it would be
those
Capaldi.
two.
Yeah. Because, in fact, and let me point out, because this makes me remember, Frobisher has actually spent a lot of time with the 6th Doctor. He also encountered the 7th Doctor and had an adventure or two with him. And thank you, Simon, who was one of our listeners, who posted on our as a comment, who reminded me that he has also had a story with the 8th Doctor, which I had neglected to add on to
it wasn't
the timeline.
wasn't part of your timeline.
Where Nobody Knows Your Name is the story, and it was in Doctor Who Monthly 329, which the website has now reflects that. In fact, I was able to change it Friday, I think. Was reunited with the 8th incarnation of the Doctor as well. So there is that story. And it is, like I said, added to the timeline for Frobisher.
And it's a story or another comic?
It's another comic.
It's another
it was in
comic.
DWN magazine. It was a comic in there. So, and I can safely say, based on the title, that it is some of the idea in it is borrowed from the Cheers American television series.
I would think that's
I
a
would
safe
hope
bet.
so.
So thank you very much, Simon, for bringing that up and calling that to our attention so we could get that added to our timeline.
Yes, definitely. And again, if you haven't seen it yet and are interested to know more, go to the website because Glenn's put together a very all-inclusive Frobisher timeline,
Best I could do.
which he's cobbled together from a couple of different websites and bits of information that we've been able to track down. So
there's your Frobisher companion archive.
I've just enjoyed Frobisher so much, and I'm actually a little bummed that now, even if we go back and review the comics and whatnot,
No more audio.
there's no more audio because he was, he's so enjoyable to listen to, and this is the voice that will now be
Yeah.
that will all be there.
Cemented in our brain.
Yes, with like real glue. Not that rubber cement stuff, but like, the good
Elmer's.
the good Elmer's wood glue. I don't know. I just wish there was more Frobisher.
Yeah.
But I loved everything about Maltese Penguin. That's such a good story, and it was fun to listen to, and it was well told, and the guy doing Peter Lorre was great.
Dead on.
He
In
was-
my opinion, dead on. Well, and I like that Dog Blotter is also brought back, and
that was
Dog Blotter
thank you for
is
reminding me of that.
actually was the subject of Frobisher's first, where was the villain or bad guy of the first Frobisher comic series, which was neat that they brought that character back as well.
That is
so
neat.
I like that, which actually helped me because while he's on the cover of the Big Finish story, and you get a good look at what he looks like, and they stayed true to the comic book look, which I appreciated. I automatically, because I had read The Shapeshifter, just when I started reading this, already had my image in my head of what he looked like, and so the actor portraying him with the voice and the way that he acted and his mannerisms, I thought was also spot on. Not that I got that so much reading The Shapeshifter, but when he did it, I thought, that is probably what
yeah.
Dog Blotter probably would have sounded like.
Here's a fun note for you. Dog Bolter mentions his
Bolter,
art collection
not Blotter.
contains an original Ridgway, which refers to the artist who originally drew Frobisher and
Right,
Dog Bolter in
right.
Doctor Who magazine.
Isn't that
It's
awesome?
like, that's
Isn't that
such
awesome?
such a fun little aside.
You can tell Robert Shearman had a place in his heart for Frobisher as
Yeah.
well. And he...
Well, who wouldn't?
I said at one time that he was fast becoming one of my favorite companions, and he is now cemented in that fact. He's so good. I think that we can talk about the Prisoners of Time comic, because we have reviewed those,
Yeah.
and our listeners are familiar with. Some of our listeners are familiar with Frobisher because of that. Is another one of those elements that, going back and reading the comics, I think also the writers of that captured the spirit and essence of Frobisher as well. And I commend them for doing their research, or at least having a lot of that base knowledge of Frobisher. And I had forgotten that in that 6th issue, that a lot of what you need to know about Frobisher is set up by the 6th Doctor talking to Perry, because Perry, at that point, where how I can kind of configure that story into the timeline, at that point, Perry had just rejoined the Doctor and Frobisher and the Doctor had traveled together for a while, and so Perry was still very. It fits well because as the surrogate for the reader who may not know anything about Frobisher, the questions she asks and the responses that the Doctor give you enough of Frobisher's background to really familiarize you with the character. And I had forgotten they did such a good job of that in that, and I praise them for being able to do that as well. And then him being really kind of the sub-hero of the series as well, being the one that, which ironically enough. Did you realize, in Shapeshifter, you guys will know this, that Frobisher appears to the 6th Doctor for the first time as part of the console. He's morphed into part of the console. Yeah. Did you guys remember that the 10th Doctor communicates or contacts Frobisher with an image of his face above the TARDIS console? Oh. So it was a callback to that as well. And then, him being the one that releases all the companions in order to help battle Adam and the Master. Very cool. Somebody else liked Frobisher as well.
Well, and what a great way of being able to do it. And I agree with you. Putting Prisoners of Time where you've got it in the timeline just makes so much sense that Perry becomes the info dump. It makes sense for her timeline-wise, and it makes sense for new readers who don't know anything about it. I mean, I didn't know anything about Frobisher coming into this other than I'd heard of Frobisher. There's this one of his companions was a penguin who talked. I was like, what?
I had read a little bit up to that
Must
point.
be an audio thing.
Most of what I knew from Frobisher was from TARDIS Wiki, because I was so fascinated with this character.
And one of the great cosplays at Galley that first year was the 6th Doctor and a penguin, and it was just like, yes, more of this. So yeah, I very much look forward to going through more of the. I mean, I've been reading them, and I'm almost up to. Where am I up to?
You said you had.
I just finished Prophets of Doom. I haven't read The Gift or World Shapers yet. So in the Doctor's timeline, I'm almost up to Trial of a Time Lord.
Well, and keep in mind that I did. When I put the televised stories in here, everybody is clear that the Frobisher wasn't in any televised stories. But I felt that I needed those.
Unlike
in order
Chameleon,
to kind of,
he wasn't just lost in the TARDIS somewhere.
I needed to frame a lot of this story around those stories so you could place Frobisher's timeline within the established continuity that we know. Yeah. And so that's why. They're not highlighted. They're highlighted in green for our benefit, but they're not highlighted. But I think I did mark that for reference only in those as well. So, because if you read the comics, you really have to establish the fact that Perry must have returned to New York at some point, and the Doctor traveled alone and then traveled with Frobisher for a while. And then Perry meets back up with them, which actually, nice job with the comics to kind of line those up and be able to make it work, because it really does. Something we didn't see on the series. If you just watch the series, you assume Perry was with the 6th Doctor the whole time. But if you include the continuity within the comics as well, you have to accept the fact that Perry was, she wanted to go back to New York for a while, so she stayed in New York for a little bit. In fact, there's another time within the continuity of the comics that she goes back to New York in order to take in a was it a Dodgers game, or was it because they would have been in LA at that time, so it would have been a Yankees game or a Mets game or something. She's in New York watching a baseball game. Yeah. Which Frobisher the whole time is commenting how he would rather be there with her than would he and the Doctor.
Now, is that from a comic standpoint, do we know, was Perry written out of the Doctor Who magazine comics due to licensing issue or something? Did they not have the right to Nicola Bryant, and that's why they came up with Frobisher, is just to give him somebody to pal around with?
I'm just presuming here. I can't imagine that, especially as inclusive as all of the actors have been from their, from just even now, I don't imagine that they would have gone to Nicola Bryant, and Nicola Bryant would have said, "No, I'd prefer not to have my image in the comics." I don't see that happening at all.
I mean, I don't think
what
she
they
would
wanted
either.
to do, I think, was they wanted to explore some other companions for the Sixth Doctor. And in fact, when they started that writing the series for Frobisher, I think they kind of in their minds might have even presumed that this was post Trial of the Time Lord.
Yeah.
That this, post Perry's last story in Trial of the Mind Warp. Story. Anyway, so I think they had presumed that they had kind of the idea that that would be the case, but at some point wanted to bring Perry back into the comics. And so by doing that, you just kind of have to automatically shift Frobisher's timeline back and presume that because a lot of that is presumption. I don't think they really kind of message the fact that Perry stopped traveling with the Doctor for a short amount of time and then rejoined him. But I think based on the timeline of events that happen and the fact that she does rejoin them later in the comics, I think that you have to presume that that's how that happened.
Well, and you can-
But I don't think it would have been anything. I could be wrong. I mean, if somebody knows this, let us know. But I would presume that Nicola Bryant would not have said, "No, I don't want," because she has had a love for Doctor Who for so long.
I don't think it would have been her necessarily, but I just know that there were a lot of, as with the whole Collins situation, there were a lot of things where they were getting paid for a season that they didn't do, and they, there was a lot of contractual stuff behind the scenes with BBC that got wrapped up in that, and I just wondered maybe if that was part of it.
It could be. It could be.
If there was a hard and fast reason for it other than just the creative decision to let's pit the Doctor with a penguin.
If I were to guess, I would think it was because there is some fudge room between Mel and Perry as far as the series goes.
Right.
Because we do know that the Sixth Doctor doesn't know anything about Perry, and it's a future companion that ends up getting dropped in the middle of this. And I think that the publishers of DWM probably decided that, well, we need some adventures in between Perry and Mel, but then ultimately decided to bring Perry back because she was such a lovable character and giving her more time in the comics as well.
I think you can probably narrow this down even a little bit further as well, that if she leaves after Revelation of the Daleks, and I picked up on this when we watched Time Heist, when they run into the time corridor, and one of the first things she says is, "Well, didn't the Daleks have one of those?"
Yeah.
So she's referencing that story. So you could very easily pit all of the Frobisher stuff between those two stories, and that now that she's back, and that she's kind of recalling that from there. So.
And I kind of even maybe after she leaves in Revelation, she probably, where Trial picks back up, you probably could fit Time Lash in there as well anyway, because I mean, we don't have Frobisher at that point either. So yeah, you could probably situate that in there as well. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I wonder how much of it was the artist didn't know if they could get her likeness well enough.
I don't think comic book artists think that way, because I've seen so many times where, well,
They don't get it right.
they don't get it right anyway, and they don't really care.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll spill the beans on this. I'm reading because these were offered for free. I think Doctor Who Life in Kanban was the group that started this and then set it off. They created a Mission to the Unknown and
Dalek Master Plan.
Thank you, Dalek Master Plan webcomic that they allow, because they didn't technically have the rights. They never sold this comic, so you were able to download each of the stories for free. And I'm giving you all this background for just one point, and it seems pointless, but and then they collected them all in a hardback book that you could buy online, but with the proceeds to it went to charity. So that's how they got around all the licensing. And the first Doctor looks
Muppets Most Wanted.
The first Doctor watched that this weekend.
That's the one I watched this weekend.
The first Doctor's image is done very well, but nobody else looks like anybody in the story. So I bring that up only to the fact that artists don't always care so much that they don't get that likeness. So that could be, Keith, a factor, and I won't rule it out, but I think that's probably unlikely as well.
There are times when you
Or it
can
could have been
fudge
the
it.
authors didn't think they could capture the voice right. The writers of the scripts.
Perhaps.
Because that
Perhaps.
comes first, obviously.
I think we're presuming too much based
We're presuming
on
a lot on a lot of this.
other instances where those situations do play in. But no, I think it just simply is they felt like Perry had done her run on the television show, and they wanted to give the Doctor another companion who they probably felt was shorted as far as seasons go as well. Because I mean, we all know that everybody that was watching Doctor Who was pretty much fine with Colin Baker. It was the powers that be that didn't like him. And there were a lot of complaints. Don't get me wrong. There were people that were writing in saying they didn't like Colin as the Doctor. But I think there were more that were not as vocal, saying, it's fine. He's a decent Doctor. And so I think the staff or the editors at DWM decided, let's give him, some broad range, but then eventually said, no, let's bring Perry back. So I simply think it just had to do with what they were doing at the time and where they could go with it.
And these comics were running concurrently with the show being...
I don't believe so. I could be wrong. I think a lot of these comics were produced, or magazines might have been produced in the Wilderness years. I shouldn't speak to that because I don't know for certain.
Okay.
So I don't think they were running.
Later,
I don't think his comics were running. I have, and I haven't watched it. I need to watch it. I have the Strip for Action on. That was one of the main reasons I bought the Twin Dilemma, is because I thoroughly enjoy the Strip for Action pieces that they do as extras on those. And I haven't watched that one yet, but I need to. But maybe that'll answer a lot of those questions.
It could.
Maybe I'll watch it this week and bring it back to you next week.
Let us know.
A lot more Frobisher, though, that we can talk about, but we're not going to because we want to give maybe the listeners a chance to try to get out there and scour around and see if they can get some more under their belt. But we certainly will do another Frobisher archive, I presume, down the road.
Yeah.
Ways.
He's too enjoyable a character to
archive.
leave blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a wealth of stuff out there right now. So should we move on to what we're doing?
Maybe there's a short story in the future.
Oh, please, if I ask nicely.
You can ask nicely. It would only help the chances of that happening. I'd still have to write it. Can I please have your how does the Shaka Doctor fit into the?
I'm trying. I've got the concept. I'm just not that good of a. I'm not that good of a fiction writer.
Well, maybe
I can write nonfiction pretty well. I do that for a living.
Maybe we can collaborate sometime.
Okay.
You come over and we'll put a pot on and have a cuppa and we'll work on this.
Sounds good to me.
We'll have some Marmite sandwiches.
Unfortunately, I had an outline framed in my head at one time, but now it's been so long I can't remember what it was. I'll have to jog my memory. Should we talk about what's coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up next on the schedule, Friday night Who this week is Paradise Towers. What?
Yay! Finally!
Glenn is not excited.
It actually I am excited, and I'll tell you why. Now, we've talked about this before, but as I revisit the Seventh Doctor's era, I certainly enjoy it much better because I like the Seventh Doctor.
Well, there
the
you
stories still are, but I thoroughly enjoy he and Mel, and that makes it worth the revisit.
This is one, I'll be honest, I remember watching when it was on. Well, whenever we got it. And I remember tuning out at some point, kind of going, I don't know what they're doing here, and I don't think I like it. And it's kind of just...
The story is very claustrophobic, and Keith will know what I mean when you see it.
Yeah, it's kind of... Maybe I've grown beyond this show a little bit. The Doctor's still cool, but wasn't as good as the one last week. What was that one? Time in the Ronnie? Yeah, that one was good. This one... But again, I don't honestly know that I finished it. I don't know that I did. So
you'll know what
it might be. It might be new to me as well.
Mostly new,
somewhat new. We will then review Paradise Towers and Big Finish Audio number 46, Flip Flop, which is another Sylvester McCoy audio.
And you didn't update the schedule on the website, but we are doing a
oh, that's right. I didn't update.
Don't forget this because you got some reading to do this week. Although it's quick reading, it's much quicker than Frobisher stuff you've been listening to.
Much less.
Unfortunately,
I didn't update.
Yeah, for Keith, it's unfortunate. Well, let me jump in here because
go ahead and jump in.
We talked about this a little bit last week, but
we mentioned it on the podcast.
I had formulated an idea on how to do a Quark's adversary archive, and unfortunately, my mind was somewhere else when Sean asked us to sign off on the schedule, and I went, flip-flop, yeah, that's fine. We can do that one. Remembering that there is such a limited amount of Quarks to do. And I really think in order to do the Quarks...
With good reason.
Do the Quarks justice, I think we have to kind of do it with flip-flop. Now, here's the crux of this whole thing is the Quarks are not per se in flip-flop, but they have there is a reason why I wanted to put the Quarks with flip-flop because... events that happen in Flip Flop are as a result of, or I should say, are in action because of the Quarks. So I'll say that much about it without giving anything else away. However, this is the one that's going to be difficult for the listeners because a lot of these Quarks, in fact, all of the Quark stuff beyond Flip Flop and the televised stuff, which I'll add. I will add another. Well, they also are a flashback in the War Games. Obviously, we see them in the War Games at the very last and 10th episode. But for those of you that want to know, you can go to the website and have this information. But the televised stuff with the Quarks, obviously, are the Dominators and the War Games, but that's just a cameo, as we just mentioned. The novelization, the Dominators, which doesn't really count because we don't ever do both. We don't ever go, okay, here's the novelization. Someday down the road, I think we'll do some
fun. That might be fun to do that.
Yeah, I think someday we should pair those up. Maybe do a Friday Night Who of the televised story and then review the novelization. Because a lot of times the novelizations, they kind of take their own liberties or they expand the story a bit. And I think that'd be interesting to look at.
If nothing else, it
way
might be
down the road if we're still doing this.
Well, it might be a fun way of maybe going back and kind of... Well, this is what we said about the story originally, and now that we're revisiting it, here's what...
Well, and the novelization might give us paint a little better picture for us because I've heard a lot of people that have watched the show and watched the stories and said, I didn't like that story, and then they'll check out the novelization and go, wow, this is what the televised story should have been. But I mean, you have limitations of televised stories.
And any excuse to read more stuff from Ian Marter.
And Ian Marter did write that one. So the Dominators is in there as well. Now, the comics that we'll be reviewing are the difficult part because those are ones that were collected in anthology comics back in the 1960s that were called TV Comic. And they are very hard to come by as far as a physical copy. Now, I will say, because they are out of print, I don't usually condone going to the internet for things and downloading them pirated. But because they're out of print and they're not available, there are some groups, similar to the way Loose Cannons did the missing episodes for television show and doing the recons. This is kind of in the same vein. So if you get online, you can sometimes find these collected TV comics that are out there. But there's about 6 stories that are TV comic stories. And they are quick reads. They're basically, they almost look, you remember the old Sunday Funnies when you had a panel of comics and it was all pretty much one story on one page? Yeah. That's for the most part what they are, except for they might have been like 2 weeks of comics worth of, and not near as long as anything in the DWN. The panels are smaller, the stories are quicker and faster paced. So if you can get a hold of those and want to play along or read along or join along in that, you can do so. Also included in that are Death Race, which was a TV comic annual that came out, which you'll have to find that way as well. But also, if you get a hold of some of these old back copies of DWM, there was a story called The Fires Down Below, and it's in DWM number 64, which is, I think, when it was Doctor Who Weekly, actually. And it's called The Fires Down Below, and I misspoke last week by telling you that there were no other Dominators other than the Dominators with the Quarks. I'm afraid the Dominators are in that, or a Dominator is in that one. So, boo. But okay. And then... the
Dominators are kind of the Pac-Leds of Doctor Who.
Yes, exactly. And then there'll be another one that we referenced, and obviously Prisoners of Time also had Dominators in it as well, but we addressed that last week as well. So, and then obviously that'll lead us into Flip Flop. So we're going to do a mini Adversary Archive next week, and just to humor me and to please Keith, who the Quarks is one of his favorite robots, at least bad guy robots.
So we'll actually be reviewing
the Quarks in the comics, Sean, are very different to the Dominators,
and then a whole bunch of Quark stuff.
Yes,
and then Flip Flop.
Yeah.
So,
or maybe we could do the Quarks, Flip Flop, and then Paradise Towers.
Or we could do it that way.
We'll see.
I'll
have to see where Paradise Towers falls as far as in conjunction with Flip Flop. So
how far off the tree it?
It fell.
How far away from the tree?
Is Paradise a Mel story or is that an A
It's a
story?
Mel.
Is it? Okay.
And this is not
Flip-flop is
this
for sure,
this list I'll post on the internet is not, or on our website, is not so much a timeline, although I think it is. At least the comic stories are all in chronological order. It's really difficult to nail down the Quarks, although it almost seemed very simplistic because they were only with the Second Doctor, and then those few times with in Prisoner's Time when they were with the Second Doctor in that instance. No, they were with the tenth Doctor and Martha. So this is probably in chronological order, but this is more of a reference point to go get the stuff. So
Yes. So
Sorry.
remind me so that I can update that, and you'll have you'll do another like you did for Frobisher. You'll put that list on the internet as well. And then the following week is Thanksgiving weekend. So Chicago TARDIS will be in. We forgot to talk all about Ally Who.
Somebody announced for Eli Who, or no, they've
No,
already
they had it.
It was
put that on schedule.
It was done. It had a great turnout, and they're already planning Ally Who 3.
They
They outgrown their
great success. Yeah,
huge success. They outgrew their venue
did.
already.
Yeah.
Which is for a second year is huge. So congrats to them. I completely forgot that we were going to do that.
If any of our listeners went to Ally Who, please send us some information or correspondence or feedback on the event there. We'd love to hear from it.
And if you're going to Chicago TARDIS,
That was one of the other thing I was going to say. Is anybody going to Chicago TARDIS? Rachel was very kind enough to do it last year for us.
Yep.
She sent us a pretty concise audio of the weekend of events that her and her husband experienced in Chicago. So if there's anybody, Dr. Phil, if you're going to be at Chicago TARDIS, I don't think Rachel's going back this year. She didn't have the money, but she's got Indianapolis coming up next year too. So, yeah, anybody that's going, please let us know and
we'd love to hear your thoughts and your reviews and your adventures.
If you send audio, if this sweetens the pot, if you send audio to us at any of these events, these conventions, things like that, you automatically become a Traveling Vortex correspondent.
Yeah,
Chrissy holds that title. Michelle holds that title. Rachel holds that title right now. I think Phil has sent us something before. Yeah, he did one as well. In fact, he might have been our first. Holds that title, so you'll actually be a correspondent of Traveling the Vortex. I'm sure others have too that I'm missing, but
which comes with absolutely no money.
Well, don't tell them that. We just won't say that because
prestige
now they're like, oh, I don't get anything for it. All right,
and no benefits. But the title alone is worth it. Traveling the Vortex correspondent. I mean, put that on a business card.
That's right. There you go.
You can pay for it yourself, but you can put that on a business card, and it's impressive.
It's valid.
People will look at that business card and go, "Oh wow, you're a correspondent for Traveling the Vortex." That is a mouthful. That is a huge title. If you were to put that on your desk placard, it would be like 3 feet long. That's a big title. So
What else are we doing Thanksgiving weekend?
we're going to do for Friday Night Who, Robots of Death.
yay!
For no other reason than because I thought it was time for some Leela, and I have a whole bag of hands ready to go that I can throw at Glenn.
Not to mention we've been on a robot kick.
We have been on a robot kick lately. And then we will be doing fun and games, and we're going to touch on the recently released Titan Comics 12th Doctor premiere issue. With Capaldi, and then we'll be discussing Doctor Who Risk and Doctor Who Yahtzee and some of the other. We did this before with Monopoly, and so we're going to be covering some of these other games, and we'll see if Glenn's poo-poo about them as well.
We reviewed the Doctor Who card game.
And the Doctor Who card game. And hopefully, if we can coordinate some schedules, we'll have some more Tiny Rebel games in with that one. Folks over there with the brainchild behind Doctor Who Legacy.
Yep.
So. That
Cross your fingers.
Finishes out November for us. So, and of course, the schedule goes on through the end of the year on the website. I won't go through all of it now, but some more audios coming up beyond that. If you would like to check that out, please do so.
And as always, please support us on Patreon. Again, thank you to
Eric,
thank you. Name escaped me for pledging this week. And if you'd like to do that, the link is on our website. All the more help. Help, the better. Keeps the show running.
A special thank you as well going out to Kirk, our buddy over at Planet Comic Con, who kind of helped the cause. We were
That's right.
we were trying to chug along to get some extra likes on Facebook, and he kind of threw the gauntlet down to the Planet Comic Con group and pushed us over the top. So if you're recently
quite a bit over the top,
if you're recently liking us on Facebook, thank you for that, and thank you,
absolutely.
Kirk, for facilitating that. That's a tough word. Facilitating.
You can also support our program by clicking on our Amazon store, going to Spreadshirt, which is our Spreadshirt. On the website, go to our Spreadshirt store, and you can find us on various social media outlets: Twitter, Facebook, where we got all those likes, and Google Plus. We have a
It's
small
there.
presence
Yeah,
there.
It's
We're also going to bolster our YouTube account in the coming weeks. So be sure to check us out there as well.
And we have Tumblr, and we have
We do.
the book club on Goodreads.
Goodreads.
Reading Apollo 23 this week or this
month. I need to get my review
Which,
posted.
as soon as I get Mission Impractical done, I'm going to try to knock that one out before the end of the week.
I should probably have one of you
easy.
show me how to post that review properly, since I didn't do it right last time.
just okay.
The technological Neanderthal at work.
We'll
Yes,
take care of
yeah. Who didn't until tonight realize that he apparently had no email address at the website. So, yeah, what do you expect of me?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.
Hey, do you mind? It's embarrassing. I'm all naked here.